Minnesota. This scraggly line here just pushing into white earth. The whole thing is moving kind of east-southeasterly direction. Plenty of lightning with this as well. Fargo is under a severe thunderstorm warning. Again, not a tornado warning. You hear the sirens going off in Fargo. Lydia Bloom just texted us saying the sirens are going off where she's at as well. West Fargo probably hearing those sirens. So this is why we're going to have, again, that's mostly for that tornado warning storm on the southern end of Cass County. Currently, Fargo, West Fargo, around Sabin, Glendon, this is all for strong, damaging, dangerous winds with these storms plowing through, again, Cass County, almost through Cass County, about to make their way into Clay County tonight. We're still tracking those really strong winds on the leading edge. You can even see some of that starting to push into southern Grand Forks County, that little pulse up of the pink, that's showing the indication of 70 to 80 mile-an-hour winds possible with them. Eventually, you folks in Lakes Country, I know a lot of folks south, just got a report of the sirens going off in South Fargo near West Acres as well. Yes, again, that is mostly going to be for the southern edge of Cass County that is still underneath the tornado warning down to the south. So here's a look that the other reason for the severe thunderstorm warning for portions of Cass and Clay County and for Fargo Moorhead is we're still seeing a little bit of a hail core just to the south of I-94. So that should be approaching West Fargo. You might get a little bit of hail, that hail core potentially going into the Horace area as well. This system really starting to pick up intensity though as the storms off to the west have now caught up with the storms that were very slow moving earlier. All this white you see, that is lightning, very electrical storms here. That's indicative that these are still intense storms, losing a little of the intensity across southern parts of Grand Forks County though. That is kind of being overtaken by this block of storms that is moving through and into the Bemidji area. This whole line is going to start to sag southward as we go throughout the next 2 hours or so. Again, a look from the Fargo Moorhead area, starting to see the raindrops on the lens. We're going to continue to track this storm, and currently looks like we do not have any active tornado warnings. So that is some very good news, Robert.
Yes, I was just about to mention the National Weather Service seeing the same trend that we have been over the past few radar scans in terms of that couplet to the south of the Fargo area, south of Horace, closer to Kindred in southern portions of Cass County. That really has fortunately weakened here, so that is certainly good news. The tornado warning here that was in effect for portions of Cass County, southern Cass County that is, has now been allowed to be canceled here a little bit earlier ahead of schedule here. We still are looking at prolific lightning near and just off to the west of the Fargo area here across basically all of Cass County here. I'm going to take off that lightning because it just obstructs so much you can't even see it. But like Jesse was saying, the main line of damaging straight line wind storms from out west really have overtaken the initial more discrete supercells that initially fired further to the east. Fortunately, in this case, it looks like the straight line winds are winning out a little bit at this moment here. And you can see we actually have a new flash flood warning for portions of northwest Minnesota, including the Ada area up towards Fertile as well, just outside of Monoman here as I take a quick cue on that. That's, again, for portions of Clay, Monoman, Norman, and Polk counties here. That is being issued here for the potential of thunderstorms that are producing 1 to 3 inches of rain per, have fallen so far, and perhaps an additional 2 inches of rain possible. So flash flooding is certainly a concern here across, again, portions of Clay, Monoman, Norman, and Polk counties. That flash flood warning will continue here until 3 a.m. this morning.
All right, let's take a live look from our Fargo tower camera. Wanted to show you this because the airport sustained winds right now from the airport, the latest are at 43 mile-an-hour winds. Those are the constant 2-minute averages. There are gusts that are topping 80 miles an hour across parts of the region. You can see the rain intensifying as we take that live look from our tower camera. There is certainly a lot of wind. The wind is going to be the damaging thing tonight. You'll probably notice the patio furniture moving around quite a bit out there because, again, the intense winds on the backside of this. Did just get an update from the National Weather Service about some of the strong winds as well behind the line. The rear inflow jet winds are adding to even more wind. So around Stutsman County, up to 90-mile-an-hour gusts have been reported on the backside, and they're pushing to the east. So we're going to see even more power outages. They've been reported across parts of Barnes County. So we're going to see more of those as, again, we take a look at some of the intense winds on the backside of this entire line that's kind of pushing on through. So I'm going to load the radar back up. It's been having a tough night tonight, and you can see that's why there are new severe thunderstorm warnings, not just along the leading edge. That's where we're seeing some of the strong 80-plus-mile-an-hour winds, but now we've got some strong winds on the backside of this. So this is where the jet is kind of pushing and fueling those storms. That's why they're moving about 60 to 70 miles an hour to the east. On the backside, you still got more wind on the backside. So even if it's not thunderstorming, you're still having intense wind gusts on the backside of this. Yes, there's still plenty of lightning there, but again, a little closer down towards that Kindred Davenport area. You guys are now out of the tornado warned area. Still some intense winds, but I did say I'd check in with you again. No longer have the tornado warning. So you folks in the Davenport and Kindred area, just hold tight for a little while longer as we still have that really intense wind kind of pushing through portions of southern Cass County. Here's a look at the velocity again, showing that influx of the strong winds near Kindred, Leonard as well, but we're no longer seeing the couplet. So the tornado threat is really diminishing as these intense winds are pushing through right along Cass and Clay County, starting to move into portions of northwestern Clay County. That's heading towards the Felton area. Glidden probably going to see those winds intensify. Similar story around Sabin, Rothsay eventually, as this leading edge of the thunderstorms continues to progress to the east, closer to about 55 to 60 miles an hour. So that's why we're seeing damaging wind potential right just past the Georgetown area. Ada, you may be able to hear the rain pouring right now in our studio. That is falling on top of our studio in the Fargo-Moorhead area. Again, this is just a severe thunderstorm warning, but that is for some of those really intense winds. So here's a live look right now around the Moorhead area. Our producer Ben is saying that the rain is going sideways, and yeah, you can really just see that almost waves of the rain pushing through because of these strong intense winds. Again, sustained winds right now right around 40 to 45 miles an hour. We've seen wind gusts topping even 40 or wind gusts today topping 80, even up to 90 miles an hour in parts of our area. So there's that live look. Again, you can see the lightning moving through Moorhead. This is a live look and live view from there. Temperatures are dropping because of the rain as well. It was a very hot and humid day, just setting the stage for these storms to develop. And I know some of you have been missing out on your shows, but we're going to stay with these storms because we're still talking some intense wind gusts as they are pushing through the Fargo-Moorhead area and approaching the Grand Forks area. We'll get to you folks in a little bit. Still dry there, but right now it is hitting Fargo-Moorhead quite hard at this point in time. Did get a report just south of North Dakota 46 and North Dakota 18, a report of some tree limbs across the road. So starting to see some damage reports being pushed in to our region as well. What do you have for us, Robert?
All right, I'm just looking at a few updates we have in terms of the power outages we are starting to see trickle in across the region here. As you can see behind me, Stutsman County has been hit the hardest so far here, but we are also seeing those outages increasing in Barnes County, Trail County, Ransom, and also into Griggs County as well, with several hundred to several thousand people without power. We really haven't seen those numbers tick up that quickly yet in Cass County, but that's because those reports tend to trickle in a bit after the storms have moved through. It takes time for those reports to come together here. So again, we are seeing a lot of power outages across the region. So if you're in Fargo and haven't lost power yet, or if you are off to the east and you still have power, make sure you have your phone charged, and then you can watch us streaming at inform.com or on the WDAY Plus app all night long here as we continue our continuous coverage, severe weather coverage here. And that way, if you lose power, if you can't watch this on your TV, you still have a way to be informed about what is going on. So as we remove all of the power outage updates here and zoom out big picture across the region, let's put the radar into motion over the past couple of hours, and you really can see how this line of powerful straight line winds, this bowing area of storms out to the west, has really overtaken the slower moving supercells that we had ongoing across the Red River Valley, far eastern parts of North Dakota. Fortunately, the tornadic threat to the south of Fargo has dwindled at this point, and we are going to continue to watch this power powerful line of storms continue to overtake the the slower moving storms across Lakes Country that are moving more to the southeast here. So only put some directional markers. Obviously, you can see how those storms are moving mainly off to the east, but the northern edge of that line has been much more northeasterly. Further off into Lakes Country, though, you have seen this slower moving line of storms that's trying to approach the Detroit Lakes area, Bemidji as well. Those are going to be moving, again, to the southeast here, but eventually they will get gobbled up here by the line of storms out to the west that are moving through. Let's take a look at some of our tower cameras across the region. Let's take you out to Detroit Lakes. You can't see much right now, but that line of storms is approaching you from the north right now. Moving over to our Fargo tower camera, you can see that visibility is reduced not just because it's the middle of the night, but because of the heavy rainfall. We can hear it on the roof of our studio here right now, just south of downtown Fargo. As we take a look up towards the Grand Forks area, you can see the lightning show off to the west here from the UND camera that we have access to. Still dry in the city of Grand Forks itself right now, but you are by no means out from under the threat. The line of storms is rapidly approaching the Grand Forks area, and winds up to 70 to 80 miles an hour remain possible along the line of storms that will be moving into northern parts of the valley in just the coming few minutes here. Let's wrap up the tour here with the Wahpeton area. And as you can see right now in the Wahpeton area, you still are quiet. The southern edge of the line of storms is just going to be clipping your area. But as we were noting before earlier this evening, you are still seeing strong straight line winds even south of the edge of this line of storm. So even in Wahpeton, if you're looking at your radar on the Storm Tracker app, you're thinking, well, it's going to clip us at worst here. Doesn't necessarily mean that you're not going to be dealing with those strong winds that we have been across much of the rest of the viewing area. Again, looking live at the Fargo tower camera pointing off to the southwest. You can see the raindrops on the lens there, and you can barely see the Bell Bank building, much less anywhere on the southwest quadrant of the city off in the distance there, obstructed by the heavy rain that we are continuing to see here. So as we take a look here at radar, again, you have that heavy rainfall ongoing right on top of the Fargo area right now. I'm just going to take a quick look here internally to see what we have in terms of the rainfall at the Endon station here. Obviously, it's going to be a little difficult because we just went past midnight, so some of these totals might not be completely accurate, but we still have seen upwards of half an inch to, in a few spots, over an inch and a half of rain in the Cass County region as these powerful storms continue to move through.
All right, so taking a live look again from the Fargo-Moorhead area. Not as much lightning at this point in time, but the wind gusts are starting to kick up as well. Still sustained winds right now from the west. That is behind this line of thunderstorms hitting the airport. 25-mile-an-hour sustained winds. Wanted to show you the peak gusts, though, that just hit the airport in Fargo. A 74-mile-an-hour wind gust hit the airport in Fargo. Have had a 70-mile-an-hour gust in Alexandria, Minnesota as well. So still intense winds within this line and on the backside of this line. Still getting reports between 60 and 70 miles an hour across portions of east and central North Dakota. That's where some of the Endon stations have been reporting just in the last hour a 71-mile-an-hour gust at the Endon station in Courtney. In North Dakota, a 64-mile-an-hour wind gust in Jamestown just recently. And again, that's why as I zoom in here closer to Cooperstown, Carrington, that's why you have a new severe thunderstorm warning ongoing. Around the Daisy area, a 67-mile-an-hour gust. I'm going to zoom up to the north, though, again, where that storm is just about to hit Grand Forks. Don't want to forget about you folks up there. 72-mile-an-hour gust reported in the Eldred area, and at UND, a 53-mile-an-hour gust has just been reported in Grand Forks. So let's get a little closer. You can see that leading edge of the thunderstorm just entering Grand Forks proper. This is moving to the north and to the east right around 70 to 80 miles an hour. That's how fast these storms are moving. So it will be very rapid and intense as far as the wind gusts go. The storm tracker on it has this in Grand Forks. Yeah, in just about 2 minutes should be making its way to East Grand Forks. Shortly after that, as it continues eastward, should be closer to Crookston by about 12:22, gently around 12:27, and around Euclid around the 12:30. So here's a live look from the UND aerospace camera in Grand Forks. Plenty of lightning. The wind is going to intensify. You can almost see that leading edge here from the tower camera. This is going to be a strong wind gust before before, and then you're going to have the downpour and then the strong wind gusts on the backside of this cell as it pushes into the Grand Forks area. And again, these are moving very rapidly. And again, the back edge of the heaviest rain just pushing through Fargo. Got a report of some pea-size hail in the West Fargo area. So again, hail threat, not as much of a thing, but the winds are going to be intensifying it. And when you've got hail coming down with those intense winds, that can do some damage, even if it is pea-size that will be basically pelting you. Here's a look at the velocity, again, showing you the wind within these storms. So here's a blast of wind approaching and moving through Horace, down through Kindred, Walcott. Again, the tornado threat that we had, that tornado on the ground, no longer a thing for you folks in the Kindred and Delaware area. Zooming out a little bit farther, you can see the most intense winds from this particular line is starting to move into portions of north and central Minnesota, right around the Borup area, Felton, Morkin, seeing some intense winds just south of Ada. That's going to continue to progress south into the east. Damaging winds with these. We'll be seeing plenty of tree limbs down, power outages likely with some of these winds as they continue to push on through. And if we look off to the west, still going to have a better chance to see some of those intense winds on the backside, even though it's not even storming really. There's still some rain ongoing, but the heaviest of the storms have passed through Valley City, Jamestown, Wimbledon. But this area here, Ashtabula, also seeing some intense 60 to 70 mile-an-hour winds pushing this line of thunderstorms forward. And yeah, it's not just the wind. We're now also talking some intense heavy downpours that have created some flash flood warnings across portions of north and western parts of Minnesota. Robert?
All right, so we have some updates on some power outages across the viewing area that we are able to take some graphics on, if my understanding is correct. All right, so we're going to start here. Remind me again, what county are we starting with? Okay, this is the Cass County Electric Cooperative power outage map, and you can see that as these storms have moved through, we are seeing several thousand customers without power in Cass County here. We do also have, as we zoom in here a little bit, you can see some of the areas that are getting hit the hardest in terms of those power outages here that are we taking as we're taking a look across different portions of Cass County. We do also have some other maps available for other counties, if I'm not mistaken here. This map this is the Otter Tail Power Company here, a larger swath of the region here across the viewing area. Zooming in first closer to southeastern portions of the state of North Dakota. Over 8,000 people are without power right now around the Jamestown area, as of course you have seen not one but two rounds of powerful storms move through here over the past few hours. Fortunately, Jamestown, the worst of those winds are just starting to die down here. But as we take a look here at current wind gusts across the viewing area, Jamestown, the latest gust from your airport station was still 53 miles an hour. So not quite as terrible as we were seeing earlier on, but you can see the latest gusts at the Fargo Hector International Airport, 53 miles an hour. 66 miles an hour at the Carrington Airport as well, 50 in Gwinner, 29 in the Wahpeton area, 29 also in Fergus Falls. These are the current wind gusts, the latest from all the different observation sites we have. 47 in the Crookston area, 39 in Thief River Falls, 43 in Detroit Lake. So let's head back over to radar here now, zooming in to the Fargo Metro, where again you're seeing that prolific lightning and of course the heavy rainfall ongoing right now.
Reports of some hail in the Fargo-Moorhead area, especially on the south side of the Fargo area. So yeah, we've got the strong wind gusts, we've got the lightning ongoing, heavy downpours. Here's a look at radar, that red showing the intense rainfall just down to the south, closer to around Sabin. That's also where we're seeing some really intense showers right there. And that's also where we're starting to see the hail core on the south side. That is going to be pushing through just north of Oxbow, pushing over I-29 and moving across the state line over the Red River. That's also where there's a decent hail core. Again, potential for some strong winds. I believe we've got some video from Forum reporter April Baumgartner as well. This is just taken a little bit earlier ago, just a little bit ago. From 12 minutes ago. All right, so you can see kind of the waves of the rain pushing through, fueled by some of those intense winds that are moving some of those raindrops sideways. apparently there's still people out there. We've got a little bit of, again, hail reported as we take a look back at our velocity and our hail mode here. That hail core just passing over 75, approaching the Sabin area. So certainly going to be loud winds, but you might also have some hail on the south side as well. Monitoring our hail cores down to the south, still looking at another pulse up in terms of hail just right along 37, heading towards the Garberg area, Barry as well. Sand dunes seeing that coming to an end. Wanted to go up to the north though and show you folks in Grand Forks again, heavy rain pushing through, intense wind gusts associated with this as that cell moves up to the north and to the east. Again, kind of on top of Grand Forks at the moment. Here's a live look from the UND Atmospheric Sciences camera. That's where the rain is coming down intensely. We've seen a peak wind gust just in the last hour or so in the Grand Forks area at UND, right around 52 miles an hour there. So things are settling down as far as Cass County goes. I haven't seen any wind gusts in the last 15 minutes or so topping 40 miles an hour. That is starting to push into Clay County now. We're starting to see those wind gusts around Sabin. The latest wind gusts are right up to 52 miles an hour and a 46 mile an hour gust around Glendon. So again, you're looking live right now at Grand Forks where the rain is coming down quite intensely. I'm going to zoom out on our hail core here and just see if those storms are south of town, heading towards the Vigeland area, but that's going to not be as impressive as what we've been seeing down in the south across portions of Richland and southern Cass, as well as southern portions of Clay County. So that's where the two hail cores are at the moment. Just the latest wind gusts though, I'm going to zoom back out. I'm going to head out to Stutsman County. We're going to switch over to our velocity mode here because again, it's not just the winds within the thunderstorms or on the backside, but even where the storms are not the heaviest, out near the Jamestown area, that's where we're starting to see some intense winds. Just got a report in from the end-on stations around Courtney, 77 mile an hour gust there, a 71 mile an hour wind gust around Daisy. And again, this little pulse, you can't tell it very well on velocity here, but again, that's why it's so important to have some of those North Dakota Ag Network stations, the airport stations, to give us an idea of what those gusts are doing. This is where those wind gusts are really starting to pulse. Eventually, slowly, we'll see those wind gusts push into Cass County. So even though the rain may not be falling as intensely, the wind threat is still going to be there. That's why we're still on air tonight. There's damaging winds going on across a good portion of our area. Again, Grand Forks getting a decent amount of rainfall at this portion in time. Haven't seen this strong of wind gusts across portions of Grand Forks or Polk County just yet. But again, behind these thunderstorms that are downpouring right now in the Grand Forks area, we are going to be looking at that potential for some strong winds on the backside. Here's that live look of those raindrops hitting the lens. Any more updates for us, Robert?
So right now, the latest from the National Weather Service is that they are continuing this line of severe thunderstorm warnings ahead of this line of storms for the potential of winds up to 80 miles an hour here. And the main concern is not just along the storms, but it's well behind the initial surge of these storms as well, where you are seeing those extremely high wind gusts. This isn't normal for most thunderstorms, but it's certainly not unheard of by any means when you have a very strong rear inflow jet fueling into the backside of these thunderstorms, really able to have some screaming winds across the region. And we have certainly the conditions across the region for those winds to be howling this evening, still upwards of 80 miles an hour. So as we pause the radar here at current time, 12:23 a.m. here, as we have gone past midnight into your early Saturday morning, probably if you're a light sleeper, probably difficult to fall asleep right now in the Fargo area, but eventually, we will be seeing the worst of the heavy rain and the lightning, which I'll again just briefly turn back on just to showcase how prolific the lightning show is in the Fargo area. That lightning show will be ending. You will still be looking out for that potential for strong straight line winds well behind that storm here. As we take a look at our velocity products, as Jesse was showing you just a moment ago, you're still seeing that around and north of Jamestown, Valley City, up towards Carrington, Cooperstown. As we move further off to the west, you can see things do eventually quiet down around the Bismarck area. Minot, things are much quieter at this hour. As we move back into eastern portions of North Dakota, though, we are still looking out for those strong straight line winds along and north of the I-94 corridor here. And as we take a look Again, you can see which storm cells, what parts of the line we are most concerned about, roughly by the amount of lightning we're seeing. It's a good rule of thumb that the more lightning you're seeing, the more powerful an individual storm cell is. If we take a look at the part that's around and south of the Fargo metro, you can see upwards of 2,300 strikes of lightning in the last little bit here, and the other area where you're really seeing that prolific lightning, north of the Detroit Lakes, all the way up towards the Bemidji area, also seeing upwards of 2,600 strikes of lightning over the last 15 or so minutes. Let's take off the lightning because as useful as it is to see, it almost gets in the way. Well, it doesn't almost get in the way. It certainly gets in the way right now. We do have a slew of severe thunderstorm warnings continuing here along this line of storms as that continues to move off to the east and northeast here. Let me get the latest storm track in terms of the forward motion of these storms. They have been really moving at a fast rate of speed here. Closer to 80 miles an hour still is what the current warnings are indicating, closer to the apex of this line of storms around and north of Fargo. But generally speaking, the other parts of the line of the storms are moving a little slower here, so we'll take a look at a brief storm track here, and it looks like we do have a new tornado warning that has just been issued near the Bemidji area. We'll get to that in just one moment, but rough arrival times over the next hour and a half or so towards the Thief River Falls area by about 12:47, Frazee just before 1 o'clock, Bemidji just after 1 o'clock, about 1:15, and closer then to the Pike Bay area by about 1:30. Let's zoom in here to this new tornado warning that we have here for areas including Bemidji here. So let's put on the queue here. So this is a tornado warning for portions of Beltrami, Clearwater, and Hubbard counties, including the city of Bemidji, also Grant Village and Northern. This goes until 12:45 a.m. this morning here. Let's dissect the storm and go into the storm here. And yep, just around the Minevera area, just south of US 2 near the Bagley area, we are seeing a little bit of spin here where those reds and those greens are coming together. And that's a decent couplet that we are seeing. Let me circle the area I'm seeing of concern right around here, just off of Minnesota State Highway 200. And that's going to be moving off to the east here. Off to the east at around 40 miles per hour. So if you're in Fern, if you're in Bemidji, Helga, out towards Pike Bay, now is a good time to take shelter and head to the basement right now as we are once again looking at a little bit of a spin up along this powerful line of storms. Okay, we do have that live camera in Bemidji as well. We can show that in just a moment. I'm just going to go through the quick rough arrival times from this tornadic portion of the line of the storm. So towards the Bemidji area by about 12:53 a.m., Pike Bay by about 1:11, and then the Hines area by about 1:19, and in the more short term towards the Jones area by about 12:38 a.m. So again, we do have that live camera in the Bemidji area at Lake Bemidji, if I was not mistaken. So you can see the prolific lightning show. By chance, in the control room, do you happen to know what direction we're looking? Okay, we do not know. We don't know the exact direction, but probably certainly off to some direction of the west-southwest, as you are seeing that prolific lightning show on that camera here. So again, the Bemidji area, if you're just waking up, if you're turning on WDAY because the weather alert went off on your phone and you're just waking up here and hearing the loud thunder, here's what you have going on. We do have a tornado warning in effect for portions here of Beltrami, Clearwater, and Hubbard counties till 12:45 a.m. this morning. This does include the city of Bemidji here. We'll take off the lightning and show you where that area of concern is. It looks like we have a brand new scan that has come in here. So again, it's just between the Fern and the Minevera area that is of concern to the southwest of Lamers, and also again off to the west-southwest of the Bemidji area. That's where we're seeing, if you put into motion here, this little spin up here where those reds and those greens are coming together, and it's a pretty decent rotation. Now, what's likely going to play out is that this is a spin up for a few minutes here. What you typically get along a line of bowing storms is that the little spin ups you can get along them aren't the most intense, aren't the most long lasting. However, that doesn't mean the danger is any less significant. So again, in the Bemidji area, you do want to be taking shelter.
Thank you, Robert. We're going to give you an update. I just got an update from the North Dakota Ag Network site near Daisy in portions of Barnes County, northwestern Barnes County, at 89-mile-an-hour wind gusts. Notice that it is not accompanied by any big thunderstorms. You're on the backside of this line that is pushing through. And yes, there's that tornado warning off to the west. I want to get a little closer to the storms, though, pushing through portions of Cass County, already through the Moorhead area, hitting Hawley, the Ulen area pretty hard. Barnesville also plenty of heavy downpours at the moment, some really intense lightning going on. I'll switch over and kind of show you the hail core that is just pushing through the Sabin area, heading towards the Elkton area. Sorry, my contacts are going out there. Elkton area that is going to be crossing over 94. Again, portions of 94 in North Dakota were already closed because of a semi tipped over. Haven't got an update on that, but still, this is going on at about 12:30 at night. So this hail core most likely going to be progressing over 94 very shortly. Another little hail core in North Dakota, just down to the south of the Kindred area, heading towards Walcott, Colfax, just north of you folks. Could be looking at some hail with this as that progresses to the east. So that again should be crossing highway or Interstate 29 within the next 15 minutes or so. So it's not just wind, it's not just the tornadic threat. There are a few spots across northern Minnesota that are dealing with some hail as well around the Lawrence area, just around the Birch area. But again, that's getting into portions of northern Minnesota, kind of out of the WDAY viewing area. I'm going to take you on a radar tour across northern parts of the area. Grafton around the Fordville area, seeing those intense thunderstorms, some strong wind gusts there as well. Closer to Grand Forks, the heaviest of the rain is kind of passing through. It'll turn more to a steadier rain chance for you folks in the next 15 minutes or so. And then down to the south, again, southern Cass and southern Clay County still dealing with the intense thunderstorms pushing through Barnesville as well as in the Abercrombie area. And you can see the little way that kind of curves downward. That's where it's kind of on the edge of the leading edge of this line of storms. And that's what's giving it that fuel to produce some of the hail cores within those storms again. So right along the North Dakota, Minnesota border, south of Fargo, Barnesville over through Abercrombie, just north of Wahpeton. You're still underneath that severe thunderstorm warning in the Wahpeton area. Fergus Falls in the severe thunderstorm warning. This is going to be for the potential for some really strong winds. Detroit Lakes now underneath that severe thunderstorm warning as well. We're switching back over to our velocity. This again showing the wind within this storm system, and you can see where those bright highlights are. Those are where some peak wind gusts are. A little closer across parts of southern Cass and southern Clay County now. That's where we're seeing those bright pinks, just south of Hawley, again north of Barnesville, heading towards Pelican Rapids, Rothsay. You're going to start to see the wind increasing ahead of the thunderstorms. Then the downpours will occur. Then you'll get some more damaging wind on the backside. Those will be straight line winds on the backside as well. A little bit of a pulse up in the velocity around the Walcott area. So that's where we could still see some strong, intense winds as well. And again, you don't have to have the intense thunderstorm to get the strong wind gusts. I'm going to step off real quick and check out some of those latest peak wind gusts from the North Dakota Ag Network sites. The Daisy area coming in with a 90-mile-an-hour gust just in the last 5 minutes or so. A 64-mile-an-hour gust from the end-on station near Pillsbury. Down across, again, portions around the Barnesville area, down to the south. You can see this little severe thunderstorm warning there. That's where we're getting some reports of wind gusts right around 71 miles an hour around Rothsay. So damaging wind there, damaging wind ahead of and along those thunderstorms and even on the backside. Robert?
All right, so we do have some video coming in from South Fargo, if I'm not mistaken, that we are able to show here. This is from one of our producers, Tyranny, and this was taken within, I believe, the last 10 minutes or so, correct? Okay, last 15 minutes or so, and you can certainly see the powerful winds that are ongoing as that line of storms was moving through the Fargo metro. The trees out there, when you can see the flashes of lightning illuminating them, looking like they're going to tip over there as you have the rain moving sideways a good chunk of the time there. And this is off, for reference, this is closer to the Osgood Hornbacher store, again, on the south side of the Fargo metro here. So, again, some great video coming in there. We appreciate all the photos and videos and reports that you're sending in to us here on the Storm Tracker team. We're sorry we can't show it all on air in real time here, but we appreciate every last photo because it really gives us good ground truth about what is happening with these storms as they're moving through the region. We can go back to radar here. Thank you so much. And Again, we do have the two areas of concern. The one is continuing to be this dang old area of powerful straight line winds that are continuing to push across eastern parts of North Dakota into the Red River Valley. You can really see over the past hour or two, if we put this loop into motion a little longer, how the center part, the apex of this bow, if I grab my pointer icon here, if I can find that real quick, there we go. So as you see here, this center portion has really started to show some signs of weakening in terms of the reflectivity, the rain that you're seeing out of this. But if we switch over to our velocity product, you can certainly still see this area of concern around the Cooperstown area, also north of and around of the Wimbledon area, north of I-94 in Stutzman and Barnes County, up towards, again, the Carrington and Cooperstown area, where aloft, remember, this isn't all reaching the ground, but aloft, we're seeing winds in excess of 90 miles an hour at times here. And at the surface, we're continuing to see that concern for winds upwards of 70 to 80 miles an hour, well after the initial line of storms has cleared out of your neck of the woods. Like Jesse was saying, we do have that report from the Daisy area just a few minutes ago, about 12:30, of at the Endon station there, of a gust of 90 miles an hour. So damaging straight line winds continuing well behind the initial surge of the rain and the hail and the lightning that you're seeing.
All right, I wanted to show you a live view from the Jamestown area. Sustained winds right now from the northwest, about 30 miles an hour. The reason I'm showing you the North Dakota Ag Network camera is because, well, they were picking up on the airport reports of the strong winds, but in the last hour, it's been gusting off and on in the Jamestown area up to 80 mile an hour gusts. National Weather Service saying, yeah, for the last hour or so, that has been what's been going on near Jamestown. So that is why there are severe thunderstorm warnings, where you notice there is no rain across portions of Stutzman County. Though gusts are still strong with sustained winds between 30 to 40 miles an hour, this is going to continue to track eastward as we go into portions of Barnes County, eventually into Cass County. These strong wind gusts, even though it's not thunderstorming, that will continue to push eastward as we go throughout the next couple of hours. So this is still a long duration event. What is going on around the Carrington area, still some thunderstorms there, but again, the strong wind gusts on the backside of this hefty line of thunderstorms that continues to sag south and off slowly now to the east. Before, these storms were screaming across central parts of North Dakota, and now we're still looking at those severe warned storms across portions of southern Cass County, or southern Clay County now, around Holly, down through around Barnesville. Again, Roth say we're seeing some of those wind gusts topping 60 to 70 miles an hour up higher in the atmosphere. Those darker purples and reds that you see, those were where we're still seeing some intense showers, but yes, certainly some little hail cores there as well. I'm going to zip over this hail core, starting to lose some of that around the Barnesville area, around Scree. You can see just past over the 94 area, and that hail core really has dropped, at least from that particular cell. Same sort of thing down to the south around Oxbow. South of there, we're going to look around Eagle. That hail core is pretty much diminished, so the hail threat is really starting to weaken with this particular cell. Up to the north and to the west, though, you can see there's a bit more of a hail core just north of Hendrickson. You can see across parts of northern Minnesota, that's where we're still looking at potential for some hail within these around Helga. That's going to head closer to the Bemidji area as well, and that's where there is currently a tornado warning going on. But Robert, you've got an update on the flash flooding that's going on across parts of the region.
Yes, we do now have a flash flooding warning in effect, for Cass and Clay counties around the Fargo metro, including Fargo and Moorhead themselves. This goes until 3:30 a.m. this morning. As we take a look here at radar estimated rainfall across the region here, and I'm confirming this with the Endon stations that we have across Cass County, upwards of 1 to 2 inches of rain have fallen so far across the area. We haven't had a chance to go outside yet to check our rain gauge. We will do that once things settle down, of course, but an additional 1 inch or so of rainfall is possible across the region as we take you over the next few hours. So flash flooding is going to be a concern across the metro here. So just a few reminders With regard to flash flooding here, this is being caused by heavy rainfall from these thunderstorms, so you can get sudden localized flooding, and roads can become impassable, especially in those heavily prone areas where you have a low spot that the road always floods, that kind of thing. So make sure, especially at night, you really cannot see how deep that water is if the road is washed out. So if you come across a road that is impassable, make sure that you are turning around and not drowning.
So we did just get a report. All right, we did just get a report around the Village Green South Street flooding. So around Village Green, we're dealing with some flooding in the Fargo Moorhead area as well. So whether or not you're in the flash flood warning, there are places that are seeing some localized street flooding. And all right, the 10th Street underpass by Maine is also. Let's zoom out a little bit. Okay, there we go. So the National Weather Service just issued up a flash flood warning for the greater Fargo Moorhead area as well. So that does include Fargo, Moorhead, as well as in West Fargo. That is for the intense rain that has fallen. And again, Ben, would you give me an update on which streets closed again? All right, there's flooding at the 10th Street underpass under Main Avenue. So again, that's one of those spots that higher likely to see some of that localized flooding. So we are seeing some urban street flooding going on in the Fargo Moorhead, West Fargo area. Again, flash flood warning for the greater Fargo Moorhead area. That continues for another 3 hours or so because of the amount of rain that fell so quickly in such a short amount of time. Not done with the rain yet. Another batch off near the Valley City area. Castleton, you're going to see an uptick in that as well. We take a little wider look out. Again, some 80-mile-an-hour wind gusts have been gusting in the Jamestown area for the last about hour or so. And you can see just passing through Valley City, pushing towards Tower City, another little uptick in some of those heavier downpours across parts of the region. So we're getting reports we're seeing video from Village Green South Street flooding. Thanks to Daniel Jacobson for sending me that message on Facebook. Appreciate that. But again, we're getting a lot of those hefty rain reports from around the region. Haven't checked the end-on one for a little bit. Let me check if some of those rain reports are coming in from some of the end-on stations. We've been checking in with their gusts. Lately, it's been an invaluable tool as we've been looking at these storms kind of pushing through. So here's, let me switch over and see if I can find, got a bunch of tabs open, sorry. Okay. Robert, have you seen any reports coming in yet?
Of heavy rainfall, so around the Fargo Moorhead area across Cass County, that is, so far the end-on stations are reporting upwards of an inch, in some spots 1.5 inches of rainfall. The highest amount I'm seeing currently on the end-on network is around the Woodworth area. That has a report of over 3 inches of rain that has fallen. It's unclear if this is since midnight. I'm assuming not quite. That is, okay, it looks like that is combined with yesterday's still, which would make sense, but still a heavy amount of rainfall that we have seen. I do want to briefly touch on, we do have a continued tornado warning around the Bemidji area. This is at the northern edge of this little apex, this little bow of thunderstorms, and just like the earlier bookend vortice we were looking at, you can see a little spin in the atmosphere just around the Bemidji area, and as we take a look at velocity, that it looks to be right around the Bemidji area where you have a bit of rotation on radar. I'm going to pause that here because it's flashing a little bit there, but around the Bemidji area, in the city of Bemidji as well, I would be seeking shelter in that basement right now. So that's an area of concern with some rotation there right near Bemidji. And I'm going to get the forward motion on that storm as it continues off to the east at about 55 miles an hour. So that is over the Wilton area near Bemidji, continuing again off to the east, perhaps slightly off to the northeast at 55 miles an hour. So a quick storm track on that. Again, in Bemidji, you should be in your shelter right now, as that the area of concern, the area of rotation is right on top of the city of Bemidji right now. And as we look at that storm track, this will be area, again, in Bemidji right now towards the 10 Lake area, closer to 1 o'clock. Black Duck after 1 o'clock as well, and then Deer River by about 1:40, exiting our viewing area. Do we still have that video, that live shot from Lake Bemidji as well? That might be worth checking in again on if we still have that live shot pulled up somewhere here. Not sure if we still have that or not, but all right, so obviously you're seeing some streaming issues as that storm is bearing down on the city of Bemidji right now, but We have been seeing that storm intensify a little bit here in terms of rotation. It looks fairly decent. Again, this is radar indicated at this time, so that is certainly good news in the sense that this isn't confirmed on the ground. But remember, it's nearing 1 o'clock in the morning. It's the middle of the night. You're dealing with a heavy rainfall and the potential for some hail as well. On top of the tornado threat, it's going to be very difficult to get confirmation unless you get some lucky lightning. Okay, we have that camera in Bemidji back. You can't even see the lake apparently as we pull that up here. Okay, still having some issues with the buffering. Well, there we go. All right, so you can see at times, unless you get a good lightning strike to really illuminate the distance, you're struggling to see Lake Bemidji right now as this is facing off to the east over the lake, if I understand correctly here. But you can see the prolific lightning associated with this severe thunderstorm as this is moving through the Bemidji area right now. So in Bemidji, it's a good idea to be in your basement right now. You can take us with you on your smartphone, streaming at Inforum.com and on the WDAY Plus app. There's a link to the Inforum website at the bottom of the homepage of our Storm Tracker app as well. If you're unable to do that, perhaps you don't have a smartphone and you're heading down to the basement and you don't have a TV in the basement, just crank the TV up as loud as it can go and you should hopefully be able to hear us still in the basement in your safe place right now. And again, if you don't have a basement, get to the ground floor, most central room, as many walls between you and the outside as possible. Again, a radar indicated tornado warning continuing until 1:15 a.m. this morning, including the counties of Beltrami and including the city of Bemidji and also northern. As again, we are going to put this into motion, and you can see that little spin on the northern edge of this line of storms. That's where we have that little extra spin in the atmosphere here, and that's allowing this storm to have the potential for some rotation, again, right over the city of Bemidji right now. Again, like we have been dealing with a lot of the night here, a lot of these rotations have been further away from the radar site here. Just for reference, this is still the radar from Mayville, North Dakota here, and that's quite a ways from Bemidji, as you know, so that's roughly going to be about 116 miles away, and so you're not looking near the surface. You're looking roughly about 11,000 feet up into the atmosphere here. So that's where we're seeing some broad rotation that might be near the ground here, but it's difficult to get a good low-level scan of the atmosphere to see if that rotation is actually reaching near the surface and then actually to the surface. So again, a radar indicated tornado warning continuing here for portions of Beltrami County, including the city of Bemidji, until 1:15 a.m. this morning.
All right, thank you, Robert. We're going to talk a little bit more about the flooding going on in the West Fargo, and Moorhead area. Just got a report from a viewer saying 25th Street. Right, Bobby? 25th Street in South Fargo is flooded, unusable up to the sidewalk. Another viewer calling in to confirm. So thank you for sending in all those reports. Again, that's for anywhere from 1 inch to 2 inches of rain in the Fargo-Moorhead area in a very short period of time. Not done with the rain yet. However, we've been seeing a few of the severe thunderstorm warnings have been allowed to expire. We were getting some reports up across northeastern parts of North Dakota, 70-mile-an-hour wind gusts there. Notice we're lacking the severe thunderstorm warning across northeastern parts of North Dakota. Grand Forks as well, no longer in the severe thunderstorm warning. There are still severe thunderstorm warnings even where there's not active thunderstorms. This is mainly because these strong wind gusts on the backside of this entire line of thunderstorms still bringing gusts 70 to 80 miles an hour. These are persistent off and on gusts over the last hour that have continued to bring damaging wind as well as potential for those power outages. That does include the Carrington area, Woodworth, down through Jamestown, Medina. That is continuing into portions of Barnes County as well. So Valley City, 80-mile-an-hour gusts still possible here all the way up through Cooperstown, through Annetta, as well as in the Ellsboro area. That continues across portions and will transition into portions of Cass and Clay County. But here's a look at those showers. Again, more steady showers across portions of central and northeastern parts of North Dakota, but really in this area that's starting to lack the rainfall, we're still seeing those really intense wind gusts. Still seeing some intense wind gusts across portions of the south. Still do have now an active severe thunderstorm warning, including Lakes Country. So Detroit Lakes on the leading edge of this thunderstorm. Hey, Bobby, would you put over our Detroit Lakes camera to see we can take a live look from the web camera from Detroit Lakes, and you can see just the leading edge of things here. That's where we're starting to see the intense downpours occurring closer to Detroit Lakes, heading down through around Dunn, Barnesville, still looking at some really intense downpours going on. White earth over through the Richwood area. That's where we're seeing a few of those as well. So actually I'm going to swing over real quickly and as my computer decides to start loading here. So there's a live look from Detroit Lakes again, where we've got the strong winds sustained about 22 miles an hour at this point in time. I do expect those wind gusts to go up, especially across portions of Lakes Country, because all right, Ben says we've got a live look from downtown Detroit Lakes, so if we can switch over to look at that view, there's a look at the street view. You can see the wind kind of pushing that rain forward. That's going to be intense winds. Currently, I'm going to swing back over and I'm going to put the our severe thunderstorm warning back on closer to Lakes Country and take a look exactly what we're seeing there within that thunderstorm. This one's moving east about 55 miles an hour, so currently those wind gusts looking closer to about 60-mile-an-hour wind gusts within this little line. I'm going to put a storm tracker on this for you folks in Lakes Country. I know a lot of you have cabins out in Lakes Country as well, or places that you care about, friends that you care about. So we're going to put that on. I'm going to make sure that I've got the timing on this right. 55 miles an hour. All right, here's your storm tracker as it moves eastward. Okay. There we go. All right, should be closer to Frazee, closer to about 1 o'clock in the morning. Should be closer to Perham by about 1:06. Park Rapids, as that line approaches, you folks in the Park Rapids area, you're getting a little bit of a cell just to your north. That's kind of hitting you, but this line with the stronger winds will approach you and hit you closer to about 1:16. Monaga should be closer to you folks around almost 1:30. Compton by about 1:37. And Wadena, as long as it holds together some of its strength, and these really haven't been losing their strength as far as the winds are concerned, should be closer to you folks by about 1:37. So again, main line of the intense heavy downpours approaching and moving through Lakes Country at the moment. Not as intense as far as the thunderstorm action goes, but intense winds are still ongoing across especially Stutsman County, through Barnes County, and across portions of northeastern and central parts of North Dakota. Robert, you have any updates?
Yeah, we can take a quick view here in Devil's Lake. Just wanted to provide a quick update for folks in the Devil's Lake area. Temperatures have really cooled back into the mid-60s here. You can see the rain-covered streets there as well as we take a look at the camera. Winds still out of the west, excuse me, at around 21 miles an hour. As we take a look around the rest of the viewing area, let's start in the Fargo area here. As we load the camera up, you can see that we still have the raindrops on the lens here. You can see those strikes of lightning at times. Fortunately, visibility has improved. You can see those lights off in the distance finally as the heaviest of the rain for the time being has ended, but we are watching some smaller areas of heavy downpours in central and western portions of Cass County that'll eventually be making their way into our neck of the woods as well. Otherwise, excuse me, moving out into Detroit Lakes, as we take a look at the Detroit Lakes camera here, you can see that it's pretty dark as we're looking here off to the, excuse me, off to the, I believe this is off to the west, but I might be mistaken here. Excuse me, as we are seeing only illumination thanks to the lightning strikes that we are seeing at times here. Otherwise, taking a look at the Grand Forks area, you can see that raindrops are on the lens there. The winds have settled down a little bit, but again, let's zoom out, big picture on the radar here. We have a few areas of concern where we are continuing to watch severe thunderstorms move through the region. Right now, it's the flooding threat. We have a small tornadic risk still for the Bemidji area, and then still, especially though, the straight line winds that we are seeing across the region. We have a couple of those severe thunderstorm warnings, again, like Jesse was talking about just a moment ago, extending from Wahpeton and Fergus Falls up into a good portion of Lakes Country around Detroit Lakes and points off to the south into much of Otter Tail County, over to just around the Wadena area, off to the north towards Park Rapids, and then further to the north and northeast, closer to Bemidji, and all the way over to Deer River, exiting our main viewing area. Let's briefly touch on the latest with that tornado-warned storm near the Bemidji area, as we've been watching that spin in the atmosphere right over the Bemidji area. Taking a look at the velocity of the winds within this thunderstorm here, and we're still seeing some indications of rotation around the Bemidji area here, but again, we're looking several thousand feet up into the atmosphere, so this is not a good low-level scan of what's happening in the environment and near the surface here. So I would be in your safe place in the Bemidji area, but that will fortunately be moving out fairly soon. Further off to the west, though, around Carrington, Cooperstown, further to the south, closer to Wimbledon and the Sibley Trail area, that's where you're continuing to see, as Jesse was mentioning, this prolonged period of high wind gusts upwards of 70 to 80 miles an hour here, with even higher winds aloft in the atmosphere. Fortunately, not reaching the ground, but we're still seeing damaging winds as a concern across a large portion here of Stutsman County off to the north as well, closer to portions of Kidder, Foster counties as well, Wells County on top of that, and then extending further off to the east, that is, into portions of Polk and Grand Forks counties trail as well. So as we take a look here at radar, you might be wondering why some parts of the area here, even though the rain has basically come to an end, you might be wondering, if you look at the map, why there's still warnings out for areas like Jamestown. It's because the straight line wind threat on the backside of this line of thunderstorms continues to be quite pronounced here. This is not unheard of with severe thunderstorms. Sometimes if you get a really strong rear inflow jet, the winds feeding into the backside of this thunderstorm, if those are really prolific, you can get some of these very high straight line wind damaging winds, that is, well after the initial surge of the thunderstorm moves through and has cleared out of the region. This doesn't happen with every thunderstorm, of course, but that is what we are seeing and experiencing right now. Again, further to the north, closer to the Devil's Lake Basin, you're dealing with some rain and probably some thunder still. Fortunately, taking a look at the latest observations here from around the Devil's Lake Basin, it does appear that the winds that we're seeing in the Devil's Lake Basin not quite as extreme as what you are seeing further off to the south. Still, though, gusts upwards of 30 to 40 miles an hour currently being reported in the Devil's Lake Basin. We do have a 90. Okay, that's not quite a very reliable network. Valley City, though, right now, the current wind gust is at 70 miles an hour. Further off to the north, we do have some additional 70-mile-an-hour wind gusts being reported as well. Zooming in closer to the Jamestown area, their station might actually be down currently, because I'm not seeing a current report from the Jamestown airport, and that's why the NDAWN network can be so useful, because we can have a second source of all these alerts. So again, as we put the radar in motion closer to the Jamestown area, taking a look at those current wind gusts around Jamestown from the NDAWN network here, seeing gusts upwards of 40 to 60 miles an hour still being reported. 57-mile-an-hour gust currently in the Ypsilanti area. And further off to the northeast, closer to Daisy, still looking at a gust of 87 miles an hour. That was just as of a few minutes ago, as of the report, as of, just about 5 minutes ago in Daisy. That's where you're still seeing those extremely high wind gusts across, again, portions of Stutsman into Barnes County on the backside of this line of thunderstorms here. But the main lightning show is starting to dwindle in the Fargo area. If you're looking off to your east, you're certainly still seeing that lightning show ongoing across a good portion of Lakes Country here. In fact, I'm going to just move our Fargo camera, point that off to the east, see if we can see some lightning on the backside of that storm. You're still certainly seeing some lightning off to the southwest here, but the better lightning show is the more prolific lightning show, that is further off to the east from downtown Fargo. Logging into our camera here to turn that off to the east here, as we're going to be watching the backside of those storms moving through into, that is, Minnesota Lakes Country here. The camera is being a little slow to load here, but as we are going to, I'll get that back to you after Jesse's got some updates.
So now we're starting to get many reports of stalled out vehicles in the Fargo area. So not going to be a time to be outdoors, of course. A lot of stalled vehicles out there in the Fargo-Moorhead area. That's why we have the flash flooding warning going on. Wanted to give you a quick little kind of radar tour. No longer severe thunderstorm warning in effect for portions of northeastern parts of North Dakota, northwestern Minnesota. You are not underneath a severe thunderstorm warning, but around the Grafton area, plenty of lightning. A few of those lightning strikes close to Cavalier, as well as the Edmore area, Larimore, Grand Forks, another little batch of thunder showers kind of pushing through. But a little closer to the FM area, not done with the rain yet. We've got some more cells that have kind of popped on up just to the west of Castleton, Kindred, Horace, and those are moving up to the north and to the east. So this batch of rain is going to be hitting Fargo-Moorhead yet again and West Fargo. We've had some reports of some hail, another little hail core trying to get going just to the east of the Tower City area, just down to the south of the Fargo-Moorhead area. You can see another little hail core just to the east of the Kindred area. That's going to be crossing 29 at the moment. And again, within those hail cores, there are also heavy rain. So that's heading towards a place that does not need rain. Again, parts of Fargo have already been experiencing urban street flooding. Not just that, we're still monitoring the gusts, still have had some persistent potential gusts through portions of Barnes County, around Cooperstown, up to 70, 80 miles an hour. These storms are not going to be the most intense storms, but the wind gusts are still sustained, are still constantly gusting up to the 70 to 80 mile an hour range across portions of Stutzman County as well. You can see the heaviest downpours, though, just moving into Cass and Clay County yet again. These are not tornado warned, but certainly adding insult to injury as far as the rain goes. Let's get over to Lakes Country, because I know a lot of folks out there still watching this very closely. Detroit Lakes, the heaviest of the rain is pushing through, but still some intense winds. Perham area, you're going to see that wind intensify along with the rain downpour kind of pushing through. So that's why we still do have the severe thunderstorm warning through portions of Lakes Country, Becker, as well as in Otter Tail County. Here's a live look from our Detroit Lakes camera. Still pretty dark out there, but we've been seeing the lightning flashing. You can kind of see from some of the street lamps there the intensity of the rain that is coming down. Again, a little closer to the FM area. Here's a look at where some of those really intense downpours are going through, approaching Sabin. Closer to around the Glendon area as well. Holly, kind of the back edge of that little cell, but these showers and thunder showers going to be moving through the Fargo-Moorhead area as well. A little closer to that southern one, right around Oxbow, crossing over 29 is where we're seeing that hail core. Just kind of report in from the Bemidji area up to 106 mile an hour gust. And again, that's that cell way off across central and northern Minnesota. Wanted to zoom back up to the north and show you folks around the Mayville, Cooperstown area. Still severe thunderstorm warning continues because of the intense winds. And yeah, it still includes the I-29 corridor stretching over to 220 because of those strong winds on the backside of that initial downpour. So here's a look at velocity showing you the really intense winds across portions of central and western parts of Minnesota. Here's the strong winds across parts of Barnes County and stretching into Eddy County as well. Those bright blues are where we're seeing some of those wind gusts topping 70 miles an hour. So I'm going to go check over some of those latest wind observations. Up there, portions around the Pillsbury area, 67 mile an hour gusts and a 74 mile an hour gust around Hope, North Dakota. So still dealing with those intense wind gusts around Griggs and Steele County, Trail County. You'll be seeing those intense pulsing of the winds, especially gusting up on the stronger side as this kind of center of the core of the winds slowly progresses eastward. Not as gusty anymore in Stutzman County, so we're still seeing that wind relax a little bit more near Jamestown. Eventually this will continue to swing through the Red River Valley, but again, this is a very slow moving pulse and energized atmosphere that is going to continue to bring those intense wind gusts across the Red River Valley overnight tonight. So we're going to continue to keep tracking this as long as we still have those wind gusts topping 70, 80 miles an hour. That's where we're still having potential for some wind damage tonight. Robert?
All right, so as we take a look again at those damaging winds, which is the main threat we are still on the air for at this hour here, let me know in the control room if we still have that Lake Bemidji tower camera, camera. Okay, so we still do have access to that. They're going to load that up real quick because we did just have that report of a 106 mile an hour gust in the Bemidji area. That is certainly a concern, and it just goes to show that straight line winds in excessive and sometimes 90 to 100 miles an hour have been reported, but more broadly speaking, 70 to 80 miles an hour is what you can expect. As we take a look across portions of eastern North Dakota, taking a look at the current end-on camera, station wind reports here. We'll get back to the Bemidji camera in just one moment. We do have, okay, that camera is down. Makes sense. You have gusts upwards of 100 miles an hour. Internet connections, live streaming video is going to be a struggle. Daisy currently has a gust of 94 miles an hour. That's not the peak gust. That's the current gust at the end-on station 2 miles east of Daisy. 78 miles an hour currently at the Pillsbury Endon Station and also at Hope's Endon Station. 64 miles an hour, that's in northwestern portions of Cass County near Galesburg, and again in far eastern portions of Stutsman County, a 62-mile-an-hour gust being reported near the Ypsilanti area as well. Southern portions of Barnes County seeing a 41-mile-an-hour gust in the Fingal I'm sorry, I'm struggling right now. Fingal area right now as we are taking a look at, again, those Endon reports across the region. And as Jesse was saying, this area, this corridor of the core of those strong damaging winds is continuing to slowly move off to the east, approaching western portions of Trail County right now and clipping northwestern portions of Cass County as well. So we'll see how much of this reaches the Fargo area. Looking further to the south, again, that's where those gusts are only in the 30 to 40, in some spots 50-mile-an-hour range in southern portions of Barnes County. So not quite seeing the worst of it south of I-94 towards the Valley City area, areas like Litchville as well, but you'll certainly still see this corridor of intense winds pushing further off to the east, closer to the Red River Valley, especially north of Fargo, as we take you over the next couple of hours here into the pre-dawn hours of your Saturday. And this has been a long duration corridor of these strong straight line winds, even though if you take a look at radar, the thunderstorms are not as strong as we have seen at other times, but we still do have some moderate to, at times, heavier rainfall ongoing around areas like Cooperstown, off to the east of Cooperstown as well, closer to the Mayville area. Again, a severe thunderstorm warning continuing here until 1:15. That'll likely be extended as well as we take you past the 1:15 marker for the end of that warning. Again, flash flood warning also is another concern. We have one of those around the Fargo Metro here. We've seen multiple reports of stalled vehicles, flooded roads, especially in those prone areas, those underpasses across the Metro. So like Jesse was saying, not a good time right now to be traveling across the area, trying to get some photos to see what the storms have done. Wait till daylight, wait till things have settled down and you can clearly see what you're doing and where you're going here, because especially at night, it's going to be difficult to see how flooded a road is until it is too late. And again, we do have further off to the northeast for portions of Beltrami County a tornado warning continuing for the next 10 minutes here. This has been trimmed and no longer includes the city of Bemidji here. As we take a look at the velocity of the winds inside this storm, that rotation is weaker. There is still some indication of perhaps some broad rotation between Taylor and Ten Lake, again continuing off to the east here at around 40 to 50 miles an hour, but that rotation signature has weakened. Granted, it's moving even further away from the radar site, so probably looking up 12,000 feet into the atmosphere right now, but that is going to be exiting our viewing area into the next 15 minutes or so. And so we're not going to be as concerned about that at that point. That'll move into the Duluth television area. I do want to pass along, we do have a weather station report near the Hope, North Dakota area. Granted, this was a personal weather station, but it's in line with what we have seen elsewhere in terms of those peak wind gusts, 111 miles an hour. Again, that was near the Hope, North Dakota area. So again, we are seeing those damaging straight line winds being the main threat, especially from Carrington to Cooperstown down towards the Hope area out here off to the northwest of Cass County. That's where we're seeing the worst of those winds right now, continuing to slowly make their way off further to the east, eventually making their way towards Mayville, Galesburg, over to Hillsborough, and then eventually towards the I-29 corridor, and then the Red River itself here. So again, if you're in these areas, you are experiencing those winds, and you are certainly probably experiencing some high levels of power outages. Earlier on, I did get a report here that power outages were approaching 75% in some counties here. I'm going to try to pull up that report. 75% of Barnes County is currently without power here. So if you're watching us, it's probably on your smartphone right now across a good portion of Barnes County, and I'm sure those numbers are even higher further off to the north. Let me see if I can get an update with those real quick here in terms of those power outages. Stutsman County has some of the highest numbers currently right now here, upwards of 12,400, and Barnes County, yeah, nearly all of your customers are without power right now.
All right, Robert, so thank you for that. I'm going to give you an update on some of the latest warnings that are ongoing and what they are currently in effect for. So again, northeastern North Dakota, northwestern Minnesota, not currently underneath a severe thunderstorm warning. However, here's what we're watching on the backside of these storms. Again, we've been talking about these sustained constant areas of wind on the backside of these storms pushing through. So even though there aren't currently thunderstorms going on across portions of Foster, Stutzman, and Wells County, still the potential for 80-mile-an-hour damaging winds in these areas. So this is for this particular severe thunderstorm warning. So if you see your town highlighted in this area, still looking at that potential for 80-mile-an-hour wind gusts. Let's move over a little bit more. Barnes, Northern Cass, Griggs, as well as in Steele County, 80-mile-an-hour wind gusts still possible. Yes, there are thunderstorms here. They are not as intense as earlier, but still the intensity of the wind gusts in these counties are still going to be topping 75 to 80 miles an hour, approaching the Hope area. Robert was just telling you about that. That will continue for another 7 minutes or so. We'll continue to watch if the Weather Service continues to extend that. Severe thunderstorm warning continues for portions of southern Grand Forks as well as in Norman, southern Polk, and Trail County. This here is for 100-mile-an-hour wind gusts in this area. So Mayville over through Neilsville down through the Bonsack area. That continues again for the 100-mile-an-hour wind gust potential within this area. Even though it's not right next to the thunderstorm, there are some really strong wind gusts fueling all these storms forward. Heavy downpours going on again in the Fargo-Moorhead area. A little closer look, you can tell that is where we still have the flash flood warning ongoing. This is not severe warn, but intense rainfall right now, pushing through Prairie Rose, pushing across the Red River into the Moorhead area. We do not need this. I'm going to actually put a little precipitation rate on this one because this one looks to be a pretty intense cell right here. So here's a look at the precipitation rate. Again, this one's a little bit off and it's hitting the Sabin area, but that is also where there's a little bit of a hail core as well. So that's kind of picking up on that other one. Back to those severe thunderstorm warnings though, across parts of Lakes Country. This is for portions of Cass, Itasca. Oh, that one's for the one up there. Portions of Becker as well as in Otter Tail County. Perham getting the heavy downpours. Here's a look at those hail cores kind of passing through around Sabin, heading towards the Elkton area, right again, crossing over 94. I feel like I've said this before. That's because this has already happened. But again, another little pulsing up of some minor hail that is going to cross over I-94, starting to grow a little bit in size as that moves up to the north and to the east. So this little cluster of thunderstorms continues to push through Cass and Clay County, moving up to the north and to the east. And again, just because you don't have thunderstorms doesn't mean you don't have damaging wind potential. That is starting to wane though across southern Stutzman County, seeing those wind gusts not as substantial. Starting to see that a little bit closer to portions of Barnes County, moving into closer to the Red River Valley as that pulse or that kind of center of the wind starts to fuel a little bit eastward. Across northwestern Minnesota, no severe thunderstorm warnings there. I know a lot of folks up there still watching, hearing plenty of the thunder, seeing a lot of the lightning. Majority of that is with the thunderstorms down to the south. We still do have that tornado warning and a lot of severe thunderstorm warnings stretching into the Arrowhead of Minnesota. That's kind of getting out of our viewing area here. So again, I want to get a little closer to focusing on Lakes Country, where we still do have some of those intense strong winds along with the heavy downpours. But let's get a little closer look at the Fargo-Moorhead area right now, where again, we're seeing that intense downpour. I'm hearing it hitting the roof of our station at this point in time. Not accompanied with the intense wind gusts at the moment, but certainly still some lightning out there, heavy downpours. And again, there is urban street flooding going on in the Fargo-Moorhead area, in the West Fargo area as well. So we're going to see this water take some time to get its way out of the streets. Robert, do you have an update on some of the wind gusts around the region? Yes, we do. I'll show you those wind gusts in just a moment. Let's start with some of the power outages we're seeing, where the worst of those winds are ongoing. Stutzman County, Barnes County, especially for Griggs and Steele. Griggs County, 1,500 out of 1,800 customers for the utilities there are without power. Steele County, 200 customers out of 1,300 without power. Trail County, 1,300 out of 4,000 customers without power. Stutzman County, also a very high ratio. 9,200 of the 12,400 customers are without power. 2,900 outages in Barnes County, and a little over
a little over 5,400 outages in Cass County at this time as well. Speaking of those winds here, again, we're still seeing that corridor of the peak winds closer to Glenfield, the Cooperstown area, just to the northwest of Rochester right now. Taking a look at those end-on station reports in terms of those current wind gusts, we are still seeing those peak gusts across the region here as the end-on site is loading for me right now. Areas like off to the northwest of the Fargo area, that's where you're seeing the worst of these winds right now. In areas like Daisy, 83 miles an hour currently, 81 in Pillsbury, 72 mile an hour gust in Hope right now, on top of the additional personal weather station reports that we have seen around the Hope area. 57 mile an hour gust in far southeastern portions of Stutzman County. And we're also seeing a 69 mile an hour gust in Galesburg right now. So that's in northwestern portions of Cass County as well. As we put this into motion here, as we are still looking out for, again, additional eastward motion progress of this corridor of extremely high winds that's continuing to sit over areas in portions of Griggs and Steele counties for a prolonged period of time, allowing those power outages to really rack up here. Fortunately, around the rest of the region, taking a look at those current wind gusts, those are on the lower end, so you might have some gusts upwards of 30 to at times 40 miles an hour elsewhere in the viewing area, but fortunately, this is the only corridor that we are keeping an eye on for those extremely high winds right now as we take a look at the end-on network. Granted, though, earlier on we did have that gust upwards of 100 miles an hour in Bemidji, so that is certainly showing that elsewhere you're not out from under the threat of these high wind gusts. We are seeing some gusts upwards of, again, 40 to 50 miles an hour across northwestern portions of Minnesota right now. Current gusts of 43 miles an hour in Detroit Lakes, 59 at the Fergus Falls Airport, and 70 currently at Valley City, with 91 out towards the Arrowwood area. That's off to the northwest of Jamestown. So again, still looking out for this particular area, this particular corridor of those high winds right here. This is where the worst of it is currently speaking, and only very slowly moving off to the east here as we take you over the next few hours here. This will be approaching, again, areas like Mayville in the next little bit, and then more central portions of that county as we continue here into the overnight hours. So again, for those of you here in portions of Trail County, we're going to be looking at that corridor of heavy winds moving into Trail County in the next little bit, northern parts of Cass County as well. So outages likely to continue to rack up across eastern portions of North Dakota as we take you into the early pre-dawn hours. And of course, here in Fargo, our concern is also the heavy rainfall that we are seeing here. Taking a look at the precipitation rates within these thunderstorms here, between Fargo and the Horace area. If we take a little cue of this, we're seeing precipitation rates upwards of 1.5 inches per hour. Fortunately, these storms aren't the slowest moving in the world here. These are moving at least a decent clip here as we take you through the last few hours, though. You can certainly see the heavy rainfall that has already hammered the Fargo area. I just want to look at the latest for rainfall reports from the end-on network across the Fargo area in particular. And as we take a look here, we are seeing those rainfall reports. Looks like the sensors have reset since after midnight here, but we have already seen 1 inch or 2 of rainfall across the area, and there's the potential for an additional inch or so of rainfall as these additional final few storm cells move through the region here. That's moving along and north of I-94 off to the east here. But again, a flash flood warning continues for Cass and Clay counties for the entire FM Metro. That goes until 3:30 this morning.
All right, wanted to give you an update on some of those wind speeds right now. They're starting to progress into portions of western Minnesota. Current wind speeds, sustained speeds over the last 10 minutes in the Crookston area, right around 37 miles an hour. Now that's good news because that is starting to wane a little bit. The peak wind gusts we've seen at the airport stations around the region, a 74 mile an hour gust behind that initial band of intense thunderstorms in the Fargo-Marquette area. That happened at Hector. In the Grand Forks area airport, a 69-mile-an-hour gust with the storms earlier, a 70-mile-an-hour gust in Valley City. And again, these are only some of those reporting stations. Wanted to show you the radar though, because sometimes that can give us an indication on where the strongest of the winds are. It may not look like much to you, but this little line you see moving through portions of Barnes County, that is the leading edge of those strong areas of wind kind of that have been pulsing through the Jamestown area, Stutsman County. That's where they've been gusting to 60 to 70 miles an hour. So this little line right here shows that approaching northern and western parts of Cass County. We're going to start to see the wind starting to pick up as that little corridor of the strongest pulse of the winds enters and gets closer to the I-29 corridor. I'm going to give you a little broader view here, so that kind of where that line was showing up, that's where that edge of the severe thunderstorm warning is at this point in time across portions of Barnes County. This is an update from the last severe thunderstorm warning near Carrington, New Rockford, Woodworth. You were under a severe thunderstorm warning. That wind is starting to tone down enough where it's no longer severe. It's no longer damaging. So you are out of the worst of the winds kind of pushing through. Not the case yet in the Cooperstown area. Still wind gusts possible 70 to 80 miles an hour there. So Cooperstown over through Sherbrooke, around the Hope area, Page. Still potential for some of those wind gusts between 70 and 80 miles an hour. This severe thunderstorm warning continues for another 40 minutes. So this is, again, a long duration pulse and strong wind that is going to kind of pulse up and down, gusting between 70 and 80 miles an hour across portions of Griggs, Steele, and Trail counties for the next 40 minutes at least. We'll continue to see those wind gusts. They have been kind of waning a little bit, but still potential across portions of southern Grand Forks, southern Polk, Norman, and Trail counties for 80 to 100 mile an hour wind gusts here. So that does include the Mayville area, pushing closer to Beltrami, not included in the warning yet. Similar story around Crookston, not included in that warning at this moment, but still watching the corridor of the strongest winds slowly, gradually making its way into the I-29 corridor, into the Red River Valley. A little closer to the Fargo-Moorhead area, the heaviest band of rain, the most recent heaviest band of rain has pushed on through, continues to make its way up closer to Argusville, Georgetown, right around Sabin and Glendon, kind of watching that stuff come to an end around Sabin, pushing toward Holly. Also around the Ulen area, these are moving up to the north and to the east now. These are not severe warned at this point in time, but Lakes Country still has that severe thunderstorm warning. That one continues from around Fergus Falls up through Ottertail, Perham, up through Park Rapids, Sebeka, looking at that severe thunderstorm warning for 60 mile an hour wind gusts. So that strongest corridor of the wind not hitting Lakes Country yet, but these thunder showers do pack a bit of a punch. Again, 60 mile an hour wind gusts, as well as some intense lightning and heavy downpours pushing through around Perham, pushing through Detroit Lakes as well. So that continues to progress eastward. Still the tornado warning cell just to the east of the Bemidji area, but again, we're kind of getting out of the WDAY viewing area for that. This corridor, though, pushing through central and eastern parts of North Dakota, wind is still going to be problematic around that portion as this huge burst of wind is just kind of fueling these storms slowly to the east. It may seem like it's going fast, but I think we've been on air for about 5 hours here or so, and this has just been a rather slow moving system now as far as the wind on the backside of things coming through. So we're going to continue to keep an eye on these, and especially as the wind gusts continue to top 70 to 80 miles an hour, that is where we're going to continue to stay on air with these, because they're still producing damaging winds across most of our WDAY viewing areas. So again, this one in the Park Rapids area down through right along 34 there, that's where we're still seeing some intense winds as well as some intense lightning and some intense downpours. But for the most part, the strongest of the winds are still across portions of North Dakota at this moment. Live look from Detroit Lakes shows a little bit of that lightning. Have we been seeing any more reports from any storm spotters or any folks from the National Weather Service, Robert?
Looks like we do have reports of lots of trees down around the Bemidji area. As you see behind me, that storm has rolled through. That was when we had the report of a gust of 106 miles an hour at the Bemidji airport. A lot of power outages are being reported here. Taking a look at Beltrami County, we are looking at over 7,800 people with customers, that is, without power in Beltrami County. So a lot of outages in the Bemidji area. Those couple of live streams that we were showing you in Bemidji, County. Those all went down at about 12:42 a.m. after a big crash of lightning, and those have not recovered since. I'm just going to double check when that 106-mile-an-hour gust was. Yeah, that was just a few minutes later at about 12:55. Granted, this weather station only reports these every 20 minutes or so, so that makes sense with the rough timeline of when that peak gust rolled through. So if you're watching us in the Bemidji area right now, you're probably watching on your smartphone. I would be shocked if there was a lot of people still having commercial power in the Bemidji area right now after a gust of that high of a caliber here. We do still have a tornado warning continuing further off to the east on that storm, but that has cleared out of Beltrami County and continues for Cass County, Minnesota, and Itasca until 1:30 a.m. That's out of our viewing area, so we're going to focus on Lakes Country parts of our neck of the woods where we do still have, again, 2 corridors here, where we have the concern for some damaging straight-line winds continuing this early morning here. The main area of concern continues to be this very slow-moving corridor north of I-94 from around just off to from around Glenfield now over to Cooperstown, entering a good portion of, I believe, just entering now Trail County as well, just approaching Mayville. Taking a look here at the ENDON network for those current wind gusts that we are seeing. And it looks like the ENDON station website is having some technical difficulties right now, which would make sense here given all of the strong winds we have seen. But as of a few minutes ago, 70 to 80 mile-an-hour gusts were being reported around Cooperstown, Sherbrooke, across these 2 counties here, off to the north again of Cass County. But northern Cass County towards Page, that's where you're looking out for the potential for those winds to be on the strong side here, clipping your region as well. Again, fortunately, though, if we take a look closer to the Carrington area, we're finally seeing some encouraging signs in terms of your winds. Those have been on the decrease here. Although as of a few minutes ago, let's see here, as of 1:15 this morning, it still had a gust of 52 miles an hour. Before that point, your gusts were closer to 30 to 40 miles an hour over the last 15 minutes. But those peak gusts that we were seeing upwards of 70 plus miles an hour during the 11 p.m. and 12 a.m. hours, those are slowly starting to dwindle here, still having some isolated gusts continuing here. But as we take a look at some of the peak gusts overall that we have seen all night long here across the region, again, Hope, North Dakota, a 111 mile-an-hour gust was reported at a personal weather station near Hope, North Dakota. Bemidji, Minnesota, that's where you had that 106 mile-an-hour gust, and then a ton of power outages and a lot of technical issues with the live streams we had occurred at that time as well. The Linton area earlier on last evening here, it's been a while that this has been going on, a 101 mile-an-hour gust was reported. Woodworth, North Dakota, 94 miles an hour, also in Elgin, North Dakota. Usually if we see gusts upwards of 90 miles an hour, that would get our eyebrows to raise here. That would be substantial enough as is, but those have been on the lower end of the peak wind gusts that we have seen tonight across the region here. Granted, these are some of the higher end cases. Not everyone has been seeing 90 to 100 plus mile an hour gusts, but widespread 70 to 80 mile an hour winds have been occurring here as we have continue that is through the overnight hours, as this very slow moving band of those very high winds continues to shift off to the east, closing in here on the Red River Valley. An updated storm track here on those. Again, closer to areas that storm track is not quite the most accurate. I'll get the more accurate updated one to you in a little bit, but we'll hand things over to the Jesse for now.
So I wanted to give you another look from the Fargo-Moorhead area. We're getting a word from, I believe it was Fargo Police or Fire Department, Fargo Fire, thank you, Ben. Getting an update from Fargo Fire saying that if you are going to come across an area that is flooded in the Fargo-Moorhead area, do not go through it. If you see water on the roadway, do not go through it. There are several flooded and stalled out vehicles in portions of the roadways that have been dealing with the urban flooding tonight. If you come across a flooded road, the old adage goes, turn around, don't drown. That's what you got to do here. You don't want to deal with that potential flooding situation. There are stalled out vehicles in the FM area. There are spots that are closed as well because of the high water. There have been portions where the water comes up onto the sidewalks as well. So starting to see a lot of that urban localized street flooding. That's why we've got this bright green polygon in effect for the Fargo-Moorhead area. Does include West Fargo as well. This is for flash flooding because as I put a little bit of an estimate from the radar, we've seen anywhere from 1 to 3+ inches. And again, this is radar estimated, but this is in a very short amount of time. It takes a while for the water to absorb into the ground and eventually make its way into the tributaries, and as well make its way down into the Red River. So your coulees are going to be very overflowing. Haven't had any overflow their banks, not concerned about river flooding, but certainly urban and localized flooding in the greater FM area. The good news is, as far as the rain is concerned, majority of that coming to an end in the Fargo-Moorhead area. Dry area down to the south and to the west, and that is kind of the direction that is heading towards the FM area. But still, the strong intense wind gusts are just starting to creep into western portions of Cass County. So we're not done with the severe threat for the rest of this evening. You can still see some more moderate to steady rain. This is also this area in yellow here is where we're seeing some of those strong wind gusts between 70 and 80 miles an hour, up to 100-mile-an-hour wind gusts there. Up to the north across northeastern portions of North Dakota, we do not have any ongoing severe weather warnings there, but still an intensification of some thunderstorms that you haven't had yet so far this evening. Down to the south, still looking at Lakes Country, have those severe thunderstorm warnings across portions of Otter Tail, stretching into portions near Wadena County as well. Again, this area here in Carrington, I think those winds have finally settled down below severe limits. Those continue from Cooperstown over through Northwood, Mayville, down through Hope, Page, Fingal, still seeing some of those 80-mile-an-hour wind gusts. Still potential for 100-mile-an-hour wind gusts across portions of Norman, Polk, and Trail counties, again, just north of the FM area as that pulse of strongest winds approaches the I-29 corridor. Robert was showing you the velocity a little earlier. That's where you can see kind of the edge of this particular severe thunderstorm warning that's just stretching into portions of western Cass County. That is where the leading edge of those strong gusty winds are that are going to persist in the 70 to 80-mile-an-hour range for another couple of hours in some locations. But again, for the Fargo-Moorhead area, at least the rain is stopping right now, but there is still localized street flooding. Turn around if you come across an area that has flooding going on. Down across Lakes Country, again, pretty quiet now in the Barnesville area, stretching down through Fergus Falls. Perham seeing those thunder showers leave the area. Park Rapids still underneath the severe thunderstorm warning, but I think you folks in the Perham area, Detroit Lakes, no longer have to worry about the intensity of the lightning or the downpours. Still looking at potential for some strong wind gusts as this entire low-level jet is just pushing and fueling these storms slowly off to the east. Still have tornado warning across north central parts of North Dakota, or not, sorry, Minnesota, and that will continue for a little bit longer here. Robert, do you have any more updates?
Yeah, so taking a look at the latest winds, we got the NDAWN station website back up and running here across northwestern portions of Cass County. We are seeing gusts right now of 93 miles an hour in the Galesburg area, 87 miles an hour at Error, and also 62 miles an hour still at the Hope area. That's earlier on where we had those really extreme wind gusts earlier this evening. Pillsbury, we have a 67-mile-an-hour gust, and currently in Daisy still at 71 miles an hour. But like Jesse was saying, when you head out into Stutsman County, we're fortunately finally seeing some relief here with those gusts from the NDAWN stations back into the 30 to 40-mile-an-hour range, and that's where you take a look here off to the west, out towards Stutsman County, and also further off to the north, and you can see that we finally do not have severe thunderstorm warnings for areas like Carrington, to Woodworth, out towards the Jamestown area, Gackle as well. That's where the severe weather threat is fortunately coming to an end here. You still have some gusty winds over the next little bit, but the severe weather threat at least is coming to an end, and those counties have been allowed to be dropped from the tornado watch here as well. So again, Carrington, Jamestown, points off to the west, Minot, Bismarck, your severe weather threat is over. Threat continuing for the Devil's Lake Basin and, of course, for the Red River Valley here. Detroit Lakes, Fergus Falls, Sisseton as well. Aberdeen, Oaks, your threat is over. Further off to the east into north central portions of Minnesota, including Bemidji, we do have a new severe thunderstorm watch, which will go here until it looks like 7 a.m. this morning. Let me just confirm that's not for just the UP. Yeah, 7 a.m. this morning, that severe thunderstorm watch goes through for north central and northeastern parts of Minnesota, including the Arrowhead. So that's the time frame you got for if you got cabins out in north central portions of Minnesota. That's how late these storms will be going. They'll continue all night long here. Like Jesse was saying, we do still have a tornado warning for portions of Itasca County, including the Big Fork area. That goes until 1:45 a.m., another 15 minutes. That's outside of our viewing area. Unfortunately, this other back-built line of storms further to the southwest is slowly moving out of our viewing area as well here. Let me take off that tornado warning queue, and we'll put this line of storms into motion here. You can see the southern edge of this line not as potent in terms of the lightning show that you're seeing between Wahpeton and the Alexandria area, closer to areas like Wheaton as well, off to the northeast of Sisseton here, but still seeing some lightning here. The more prolific lightning off to the south east of the Detroit Lakes area, heading in the general direction of Brainerd as well. New severe thunderstorm warning, including areas just along and north of Brainerd. That will be going here until it looks like until 2 a.m. Central Time this morning. So that line of storms is gradually moving out of our viewing area, and let's put a storm track on that, as that again is going to be clearing out of our viewing area here. That's going to be continuing off to the east at about 70 miles an hour. This initial line of the storm is still at least moving at a decent clip. It's the winds behind this initial line that have been moving at a crawl here, even though the winds themselves are at anything but a crawl. But as we take a look at the storm track here, as this initial line is going to be clearing out of our viewing area, moving off to, it looks like off to the east here. That'll be clearing into areas like Alexandria by about 2 a.m. this morning, Brainerd a little after, and then Sauk Center by about 2:30, and then eventually towards the Duluth area as we're taking you into the 3 a.m. hour as well.
All right, thank you, Robert. Just got a report in. We've got some video from 35th Avenue South. This is from Hunter. This is of the flooding in the FM area. So here's a look again. This is on 35th Avenue South from Hunter. So this is the standing water. Hard to make out exactly what sign that said, but there's standing water covering and completely covering the roadways there, and would not recommend walking in the water or driving into it, but you can tell that there has been certainly quite a lot of evidence of plenty of water on places that water normally doesn't go. The storm systems, the storm sewer systems can't keep up with a very short amount of time where a lot of rain has fallen in a very short amount of time. So again, this was again 35th Street South. Thanks to Hunter for sending that one in. Let's take a look back again. That's why we do have a flash flood warning in effect for Fargo as well as in Moorhead and West Fargo, so portions of Cass and Clay County. That is, again, law enforcement, the Fargo Fire Department saying if you come across a flooded roadway, turn around, don't drive into it. Several stalled vehicles in the greater FM area right now that they're responding to. So stay away from them, let them do their job. Wanted to zoom out though, again, showing you this little line here that's showing up, this green line you see. That is not actually rain falling. That is the beginning and the pulse of the strongest of the winds moving out of Barnes County, pushing into portions of Cass County. So we're going to continue to keep an eye and continue to stay on because of these intense winds. Even though they're not with a thunderstorm, this is the backside pushing all of these storms that initiated earlier on tonight. That is pushing them, and they're still gusting over 60, over 70 miles an hour. Notice here, nothing going on across portions of Barnes, Cass, as well as this portion of Ransom County here. There's nothing going on as far as rain on radar, but 80-mile-an-hour gusts are still possible around Litchville, over through Fingal. Tower City still dealing with this, as around Ypsilanti still dealing with some of those strong, intense winds on the backside of this. Still looking at the potential for some 70 to 80-mile-an-hour wind gusts along Highway 200 as well. Cooperstown over through the Hope area, still potential for some 80-mile-an-hour wind gusts. That severe thunderstorm warning continues for another about 25 minutes for portions of Griggs, Cass, Steele, as well as in the Trail County area. Continue to progress a little bit farther to the east. Still potential for some 80 to 100-mile-an-hour wind gusts. This is damaging winds. This one will continue for another 10 minutes if it holds still. Again, National Weather Service may continue or extend these. We're going to continue to watch those. We're going to continue to see the reports that are coming in, still keeping our eye on the flash flooding situation going on in the FM area and West Fargo as well. But the lack of rain is going to help that water slowly start to recede. It's just going to take some time. There's no more rain down to the south, Kindred, Enderlin, where there was a tornado, again, confirmed that was on the ground in Enderlin area. That has come to an end. Drier skies down to the south. Still some 60-mile-an-hour wind gusts, though. A new severe thunderstorm warning has been issued for portions of Lake Country. So you can see that is going to continue to progress off to the east. Those continue to slowly make their way off to the east, and this line starting to extend down closer to Alexandria, Minnesota. Still looking at a severe thunderstorm warning around Bemidji, and the leading edge of that does still have a tornado warning on it at this point in time. I want to take a quick little zoom up to the north, though. Again, not severe warn, but I don't want to forget about you folks up across northeastern parts of North Dakota. You can see just past Crocus, heading towards the Langdon area, some heavier downpours around Candu as well. St. Thomas over up through Halleck as well as seeing some of those heavier downpours. But for the moment, I'm going to switch back over to Robert. I think you've got some wind reports for us.
So taking a look at the latest wind reports from the NDAW network here across areas of far northwestern Cass County into portions of Barnes County and areas off to the north. Fortunately, we aren't seeing too many spots with those wind reports upwards of 90+ miles an hour, but Galesburg, you are one of them. A 91-mile-an-hour gust currently at the NDAW station there, 82 miles an hour at Ayer, 58 miles an hour at Pillsbury, 58 miles an hour at Daisy, 39 miles an hour further off into far eastern portions of Stutzman County, and also in the Fingal area, 47 miles an hour. So further to the south and further off to the southwest, the winds aren't doing as too terrible here, but further off to the north, that is where you are seeing the worst of those velocities. Again, moving into the Mayville area here. So far, you've been seeing the blues as the area that have had the worst of those winds. But now that we're moving on to the other side of the radar, where those the winds are now moving away from the radar site here at Mayville, closer to the Hillsborough area, that's where you're starting to see those reds also indicative of those strong straight line winds. Taking a quick query here of some of the winds that the radar is indicating, which we can do a little bit more reliably here because we are pretty close to the radar site here. For reference, it's just north of Mayville. So right here, we're only looking about 800 feet above the ground here. Granted, not all of that is reaching the ground still, but 85-mile-an-hour winds certainly within the realm of possibility based on what we have seen near the Hillsborough area. Off to the west of Mayville, winds in excess of 60 to perhaps 70 miles an hour between the Findlay and Hope area, certainly possible as well. Cooperstown, you're almost through it, I promise. We are going to be looking at those storms finally, not even the storm, but just the worst of that wind finally starting to clear out of here over the next little bit. And again, further off to the west and southwest, that's where those winds are diminishing in areas like Glenfield over to the Wimbledon area, down further to the south, closer to Spiritwood, where all of this started quite a long time ago during, goodness, what was that? The 8 o'clock hour here. And we have been on air for quite a while here. And I understand that you have missed some programming. We did not have our 9 or 10 p.m. newscast, but we have been looking at these dangerous and at times life-threatening storms moving through the region here throughout the evening and overnight hours. And our first and foremost priority has to be trying to give you this life-saving information so that you can get yourself and your loved ones to a safe place so that you stay safe. That's our only goal, if nothing else. So that's why we are still on the air at this hour, 1:40 a.m. on this Saturday, June 21st. It was the summer solstice last night at about 9:40 p.m. I don't think any of us had a chance to talk about that, and for good reason here, because it wasn't very sunny across much of North Dakota as these powerful storms have been moving through here. Again, just seeing the worst of that wind now starting to approach areas just off to near the Hillsborough area, approaching the I-29 corridor, closer to Hunter and Arthur as well. Again, taking a quick query of what the radar is estimating those winds to be, upwards of 80 to 90 miles an hour. Again, that's not a confirmed wind at the surface here, but Again, we are seeing those winds near the Galesburg area right now confirmed at the ground, 91 miles an hour with a 66-mile-an-hour gust at the Mayville end-on station. So those winds upwards of 60, 70, yes, 80, 90 miles an hour certainly possible here as, again, this area, this band of the heaviest winds continues to slowly, and I too mean slowly, move further off to the east here, closer to the Red River Valley here. And again, we are getting additional reports of damage in the Bemidji area, multiple branches down, power flashes, and it looks like also damages to homes as winds were upwards of 80 to 100 miles an hour in the Bemidji area during the 12 a.m. hour about an hour ago. So even if there was not a tornado near the Bemidji area earlier on this night, you certainly still saw some damage around the Bemidji area here, and we're certainly going to be continuing to look out for additional damage possible as this corridor of that highest wind is continuing to push further off to the east here, again approaching the I-29 corridor, areas like Arthur, northern parts of Cass County. That's where you're also going to be looking out for those stronger winds. Winds right now at the end-on station in Ayer and also in the Galesburg area. Those winds, those gusts are at the 82 and 83 mile an hour mark. So still looking at those 80-plus mile-an-hour winds with this corridor of heavy winds that we're seeing stretching from Cooperstown over to Mayville, down to the south, closer to Arthur, and again, stretching through a good portion of Trail County as well. And again, when we take a look at the reflectivity here, it does not look that impressive. I understand that it seems confusing that a storm that's just some yellow and some oranges with some moderate rainfall is able to bring these intense winds, but that's just the nature of these thunderstorms, as we have seen that rear inflow jet really ratchet up the winds on the backside of these storms, even as on radar they have been showing those signs of some weakening.
Turn the mic on. Was just getting a couple phone calls, getting some reports in as far as the rainfall reports here at WDAY. Bobby Pointer just went out and checked ours. We're at over 1.5 inches. West Fargo coming in with 1.73 inches. And again, a lot of that in a very short period of time. And when you have an intense rainfall like we had move through the Fargo-Moorhead area, that creates localized street flooding, that creates urban ponding as well. So there are, again, several reports of stalled out vehicles, of people who drove into the flooded roadways. Do not do that. Fargo Fire Department asking you to turn around if you see a flooded roadway. Should not be out there driving this evening. The good news is, again, that flash flood warning continues until 3:30 in the morning. The good news is that the rain is tapering off in the FM area. Rain certainly tapering off out near Cooperstown over through Glenfield, right along 200 there, but the severe thunderstorm warning continues around Griggs, Steele, and Trail County. That is for those 60 to 70 mile an hour wind gusts. The area of Cooperstown still a potential for some of those strong wind gusts between 70 and 80 miles an hour. Again, this is the push of the winds that have fueled and really sparked off these intense thunderstorms earlier. And now the thunderstorm threat is kind of waning, but the strong wind gust threat is still there. It is going to be rather persistent. That's why you will see these severe thunderstorm warnings kind of right along the nose of that jet. Even if there is not a thunderstorm, even though there is not rain going on, that is what's fueling and creating those severe thunderstorm warnings across parts of North Dakota. Starting to push through Trail County is the nose of that jet as well. Heavier rainfall earlier in the Grand Forks area, that is tapering off to more of a steady moderate rainfall. Some lightning heading up closer to the Langdon area. Also this little batch of thunderstorms now, and it's no longer as intense as it was, but is pushed and plowed through Lakes Country. Those severe thunderstorm warnings most likely going to be expiring relatively soon. But again, even though there's not a thunderstorm going on around Tower City along I-94, Valley City, severe thunderstorm warning continues there because of that 80 mile an hour wind gust potential. That continues again closer to Mayville until, well, that one was just expanded until 2:45 again because of that 60 to 100 mile an hour wind gust potential within portions of northern Cass as well as in Norman, Steele, and Trey County. So again, this is a latest update from the National Weather Service extending the severe thunderstorm warning for northern Cass, portions of Norman as well as Steele, and basically all of Trail County. That goes for another hour because these wind gusts are not just a quick gust with the thunderstorm. They are persistent off and on, and around the Jamestown area, those 80-mile-an-hour gusts were going on for about an hour. A little closer to Lakes Country, again, the heaviest of the thunderstorms moving out of Wadena as well as the North Germany area. Otter Tail drying out, but still potential for some really strong winds on the backside of this. This little partial thunderstorm or severe thunderstorm warning out near the Bungo area, that is going to continue until 2 o'clock. And within that little line of scraggly thunderstorms, there's a potential there closer to the Crosby area for a tornado within that little thunderstorm. But again, that's just potential within that line. A radar indicated tornado warning off to the west as well. But again, the backside starting to dry out, much drier conditions, quieter winds across the Minot Bismarck area. Jamestown, the winds are finally settling down, not into the severe category any longer. A little closer to, again, Lakes Country, you can see in Detroit Lakes, the lack of lightning going on. That's because those storms have kind of pushed on through. Here's a look at velocity, though. What we're looking at is that nose of the jet, and that's what's creating some of those really intense winds. This is the radar site here in Mayville. That area in yellow here, that is the line of most intense winds between 80 and 100-mile-an-hour gusts still possible within this. So again, even though it doesn't look like a big bad thunderstorm outside, those wind gusts are a little sneakier. So they're going to be causing a lot of damage as they push right through I-29. Potential for vehicles to be flipped over if they're out driving. 147 in the morning, though. Hopefully that is a much lighter load on I-29, but still that line of strong winds extends down into northwestern parts of Cass County, approaching the Gill area, continuing to get closer to Castleton. So do expect that wind to be very strong across around the Cooperstown area, heading again closer to Mayville as this entire huge area of storms continues to settle down as far as the rainfall, but not settling down in the wind department just yet. And again, that's why we're still on. These are still incredibly damaging wind potential, and they're still creating damage across portions of eastern and North Dakota as they progress closer to the Red River Valley. Still a flash flood warning across portions of northwestern Minnesota. You can see that little batch of thunderstorms that just went through the Fargo-Moorhead area going into that secondary flash flood warning around the Ada, Minnesota area. Those storms continue to move up to the north and to the east. Looking a little bit quieter, though, in the Fargo-Moorhead camera, but again, a lot of reports of street ponding as well as urban flooding. Robert, do you have another update on some of those winds?
Yes, taking a look here at radar, we're joined by Charles Picard here now. So we got most of the team here. Lydia, of course, has the weekend off, but taking a look at those winds here, especially across northern parts of Cass County and Trail County, that's where you're seeing indications here of those velocities upwards of 80, 90, and yes, even 100 miles an hour. I've been struggling to see winds of that caliber on the end-on station, but remember, these winds, those peak winds of 90, 100 miles an hour are going to be a little bit more isolated, so it just you have to get lucky or very lucky depending on your perspective for your specific location or the specific location of a weather station to be hit with those peak wind gusts. So across northwestern portions of Cass County, still seeing those winds upwards of 70 to 75 miles an hour, but certainly this storm is capable of winds higher than that, again, upwards of 80, 90, and yes, 100 miles an hour. Closer to the Cooperstown area, points off to the east from there, we are fortunately seeing those winds gradually diminish. It's going to be a slow process here. Cooperstown, you still do remain under a severe thunderstorm warning. For areas off to your west, that expires in about 10 minutes. The new warning does continue for areas off to the east of Cooperstown for the next hour or so here. But again, as we take this into motion here, looping this storm, you can see that corridor of those high winds now starting to enter, again, eastern portions of Trail County, approaching the state line with Minnesota, and extending further to the south, closer to areas like Hunter and just around and north of Castleton. Keeping a close eye on those central Cass County end-on station observations. I haven't seen those winds pick up quite yet, but as far to the south as around Castleton, along this little leading edge of that low-level jet, of the rear inflow jet from those storms that Jesse was talking about before, that you could see extending well further to the south through central portions of Cass County and further off closer to the Fort Ransom area as well. That's the leading edge of where you're looking out for the potential of those damaging straight line winds, even though the thunderstorms are basically to an end in these areas. Across Bardens County, we are seeing those winds upwards of 45 to at times 50 miles an hour at the Daisy station. Fortunately, Stutsman County, again, your threat has come to an end. Those winds are gusting 20, 30 miles an hour closer to the Jamestown area, but we have seen some of the airport stations, for instance, Jamestown and Valley City, those have both stopped sending us data, so those airport sites have lost power. Perhaps have taken some damage here. We've likely seen widespread damage, and it's just because it's the middle of the night. And because of those power outage issues, we aren't really getting a lot of those reports in. A lot of things will come to light with daybreak once we get into your Saturday proper. But looking further off to the east as well, across portions of Minnesota Lakes Country from Thief River Falls towards the Bemidji area, also keeping an eye on this additional corridor of some strong straight line winds in that region, as well as that low level rear inflow jet is kind of screaming into that region as well here behind these thunderstorms that are slowly pushing out of our viewing area here. So again, as we take a look here at some radar cues about the potential winds that we're seeing in this area here, again, off to the east, off to the west of the Bemidji area, upwards of 50 to 60 mile an hour winds. So not quite as extreme as we're seeing further off to the west in North Dakota and approaching the Minnesota state line, but certainly still some damaging wind potential there. And we have seen earlier on, again, winds upwards of 100 plus miles an hour in the Bemidji area. Lots of damage reports are slowly starting to trickle in from that region. And speaking of reports, taking a look at the latest in terms of power outages, starting across North Dakota, upwards of now 9,200 customers without power in Stutsman County. That's upwards of 3,100 out of 3,500 in Barnes County, North Dakota, and across Minnesota. We're seeing those power outages tick up across Mahnomen and also across Norman counties.
Thank you, Robert. Wanted to show you some of those rainfall reports that have been streaming in. Robert Pointer putting these all together. Most of these are from the NDON, the North Dakota Ag Network stations. You can see anywhere from 1 inch over 1.5 inches in the wing area, over almost up to 2.5 inches in parts of the regions. Across southeastern parts of North Dakota, Leonard coming in with about 1.75 inches here at WDAY, 1.58. Fingal just under 1 inch. Wahpeton only 1,500 of an inch. In central North Dakota, anywhere from 1/2 inch around the Bismarck area, about 3/4 inch in Jamestown, to over 2.5 inches across portions of central North Dakota. All of the rain that has fallen, about 1 to 2 inches in the Fargo-Moorhead area, still has been creating urban flooding. We're continuing to monitor that. Again, Fargo Fire Department saying if you see a flooded roadway, turn around. There have been several reports of vehicles stalled out in those flooded roadways, so stay away from those. Don't become one of those as well. Flash flood warning also in effect through portions of northern Clay, as well as Mahnomen, Norman, and Polk County. So this area kind of outlined in that bright green. So that does include Fertile down through Ada, and as well as in the Borup area, Wakano over through Bijou. That goes until 3 o'clock in the morning. That area has also seen plenty of rain, and now we're looking at that thunderstorm continuing to kind of make its way up to the north and to the east. So this one was in the FM area earlier. That continues to push through, especially the southern side of that flood warning, heading towards Mahnomen. Again, not severe warned with that thunderstorm, but we still do have severe thunderstorm warnings in effect, not because of the thunderstorm, but because of those strong wind gusts that we've been talking about that have been pushing this entire system slowly to the east. So still a chance for 80-mile-an-hour wind gusts in the Cooperstown area. That continues for another 6 minutes or so. So that includes portions of northern Cass, Griggs, as well as in the Trail County area. That's where those wind gusts are still quite strong over through Hope, down through Page, along 38. A little bit farther to the east, we're still looking at Griggs, as well as in Steele and Trail County. 100-mile-an-hour damaging winds still possible in these counties, in this area. Even though it's just kind of a steadier rain, it's not as exciting as far as the thunderstorm goes. There's not as electrical of storms going on anymore, more of a steady rainfall. These winds are still potential gusting between 90 and 100 miles an hour. Wanted to get back to Lakes Country as again, Fergus Falls kind of coming to an end with the showers as well. Those are pushing through Battle Lake. You can see Parker's Prairie over through Wadena still underneath a severe thunderstorm warning. This is mostly for 60-mile-an-hour wind gusts that pulse in that nose of the strongest winds, not quite to Minnesota just yet. But again, this area on the backside is where we're watching that push on through. So getting a little closer. Live look from Detroit Lakes. Again, not quite as active out there. I wanted to switch back over to our velocity. You can really tell where that wind is starting to push in, getting closer to Castleton in Cass County, starting to progress over into Minnesota now. This little nose here just stretching through portions of Trail County. That's where it's going to bring some of those intense wind gusts. You can really tell where that nose is by the denotation of the yellow next to the red. Again, this is not tornadic. This is just the nose of the strongest winds starting to push into portions of Minnesota as we go throughout the next couple of hours here. We're going to eventually start to see those severe thunderstorm warnings drop across North Dakota. Most likely the strongest wind gusts have started to drop a little bit, especially across Stutzman County. So that's why you're no longer underneath that strong wind potential with the severe thunderstorm warning there. You have any more updates for us, Robert?
So with regard to the tornado, we saw a couple hours, about 11:30 last night near the Enderlin area. The National Weather Service in Grand Forks has now confirmed 2 fatalities associated with that storm from houses that were damaged. Let me just confirm the exact wording that they said here. From houses damaged about 3 miles east of Enderlin along the Cass and Ransom County line. So 2 confirmed fatalities associated with that tornado. Again, that was about 11:30 last night here. So we are starting to see those damage reports and injury reports coming in here. So this was a look at the storm reports. This is the rough location of that tornado. Again, about 3 miles or so off to the east of the town of Enderlin, near State Highway 38 here. And that tornado then continued off to the east-southeast into portions here of Ransom County as well, closer to the community of, as I pulled the storm report up, closer to the community of Sheldon as well here as that tornado continued here. Fortunately, the tornadic risk has ended across the region here, but we are still looking out for that powerful straight line wind threat across the viewing area here as we'll put a storm track on the latest with regard to the severe thunderstorm warning that we have continuing here for not so much the storm itself, but just the straight line winds even outside of the storm, moving east at 30 miles an hour. So the initial line of storms here, the initial one that formed over eastern portions of our viewing area was a bit slower moving. Those initial couple cells that spawned those few tornadoes, those weren't moving at the highest clip. But then you had that second round of storms that was blazing out of western parts of North Dakota through the Bismarck area and then into eastern parts of the state. That was moving upwards of 60 to 70 miles an hour, But now the winds behind that storm, even though these winds are upwards of 80 to 100 miles an hour, the forward speed of the entire column, the area of these winds is not moving the most quickly here. So again, as we look at these arrival times, the worst of these winds approaching the Ada area during the 2 a.m. hour, Fertile by about 2:40 a.m., Monoman by about 3 a.m., Fawston then by about 3:30 here. So again, we are seeing the continued threat here for these strong straight line winds, even though if you're looking at your weather radar on the app, the storm itself doesn't look that intense. The strong winds have really been wrapping in on the backside of this storm here, and that threat continues across areas just north of Fargo. I'm taking a look at the latest from the NDAWN network stations. 61-mile-an-hour gusts currently at Ayer, 67 at Galesburg, and 70 currently at Hillsborough. So Hillsborough and more central portions and eastern portions of Trail County, you are seeing those winds increase as we are obviously seeing that column increasing and moving through your region here on radar currently.
Yeah, so we're going to be giving you an update now on the latest severe thunderstorm warning that the National Weather Service has issued. This does include portions of central, western, and northern Cass County, not including the Fargo-Moorhead area just yet. This one goes for another 45 minutes, and that will continue to be a wind threat. This is, again, radar indicated as we switch over to our velocity mode here. This is, again, the Strongest winds approaching the Castleton area, 70-mile-an-hour gusts possible riding along 94 down through the Wahlberg area. You'll start to notice the winds increase there. Hartwood also seeing those winds intensify. Amenia also seeing those winds really pick up. Zooming up a little bit farther to the north around the Grandin area, Kelso, as well as Halstead, Hendrum, that's where the nose of these strongest gusts are. So that's where we're looking still at the potential for 60 to 70-mile-an-hour wind gusts, even higher than that possible. Starting to still see those gusts around the Hillsborough area, anywhere from 60 to 70 miles as well. A little bit farther up to the north, Buxton over through Climax, Minnesota, Neillsville, Shelley, Minnesota, seeing some of those intense winds because, again, this is just the nose and the beginning of some of those intense wind gusts that are going to continue. Again, continue to watch the flash flood warning. However, the strongest winds, though, starting to cross over the Minnesota-North Dakota border from Climax, Minnesota, down through Halstead. That's where we're starting to see some of those 60 to 70-mile-an-hour wind gusts possible. And the ones just off to the west, even potential up to 70, 80 miles an hour. This is still damaging wind threat, which is why we continue to stay on. If you're just joining us in portions of Minnesota, this is what we're waking up to or staying up late for because of the intense winds and the intense push of the low-level jet that is fueling, again, sparked off these thunder showers earlier today, and that's what we're continuing to track at the moment. So portions of central and western parts of Cass County, northwestern Cass County, starting to see that intense wind push as well. Approaching Castleton, again, not quite to the west. Fargo area, not in effect yet for the Fargo-Moorhead area, but still looking at that severe thunderstorm warning that does include western portions of Cass, northern portions of Cass, as well as Norman, Steele, and southern portions of Trail County as this really intense wind continues to push, even though the fact that we don't have any active rain falling across Cass County, we are still dealing with the intense winds on the backside of things. So I'm going to step off really quick to kind of give us a broader picture because now we're down to just 2 severe thunderstorm warnings at the moment in our area. So this is the one down to the south I was just talking about, and then this one up to the north. So that does include, again, northern portions of Cass, Norman, Steele, and Trail County. And again, this is mainly for those intense wind gusts that we've been talking about for the past at least 2 hours or so. So still looking at the potential in this area for up to 100-mile-an-hour wind gusts within this area of the severe thunderstorm warning. So that does include you folks in Mayville, around the Ellsbury area. Was just showing you the velocity starting to push into portions of western Minnesota, that nose of the strongest winds. That's why we have this severe thunderstorm warning that goes until 2:45. Again, Hatton, Hillsborough, Mayville, all underneath the gun for these really intense wind gusts that have not periodically kind of come up and down. We've got sustained winds between 40 and 50 miles an hour in some locations here as well. This does not include you folks in Grand Forks. A steady rain, still some wind gusts there, but the, again, strong and the nose part of this low-level jet that are fueling these storms off across central and northern Minnesota, that is what's creating these intense wind gusts across parts of Norman, Steele, and Trail County. Again, starting to see things tone down a little bit in Cooperstown, Carrington. Those wind gusts are finally settled down for you folks. Valley City, kind of on the edge here of those wind gusts, but still looking across portions of northwestern Cass and Clay County. Not quite to the Clay County just yet, but this nose is going to start to push into Cass County in a little bit, Robert.
Right, so we do have some updates regarding power outages across the region. Our producer, our fantastic team behind the scenes that you don't get to see here, including Ben and John in the control room. Ben, what do we have? What county are we going to be starting with here? Okay, this is Otter Tail Power Company, and we're seeing here, I'm struggling to see. Okay, 8,000 without power in Jamestown itself. Further off to the east, another 8,000 without power in the Bemidji area as well. And then 1,400 without power in the Fergus Falls area. Further to the north, we have 3,000 further off to the north there as well here. And then we also have, I believe, an additional map that we can show here as well. All right, this is Cass County Cooperative, if I'm correct. Okay, and some of the numbers that we are seeing here, Ben, you got better eyes than me. Okay, Okay, Richland and Ransom counties, about 600 people without power in rural parts of that county. Further to the northwest here, we do have as well, closer to Rogers, we have more than 500 people without power as well. And then 460 people without power in Valley City currently. And towards the Fargo area, do we have any numbers from there? Okay, only about 6 outages reported in the Fargo area here. There might be some, sorry. And then another 700 people without power in the Arthur area as well. So again, we are seeing a slew of outages across the region here as these straight line winds have moved through. We can switch back over to a radar here on Max 1. And so again, the 4 warnings we still have in our viewing area, 2 flash flood warnings, 1 for the Fargo Metro here. We haven't talked about that in a moment. Fortunately, the good news is the rain has stopped, so we're not going to see any additional precipitation here in the Fargo area. But it's just going to take time for all of that water to drain out here. So anywhere around the Fargo Metro, if you come across a flooded roadway, please, please don't drive through it. I know it's an inconvenience. I've been tempted to do it myself. All right, I understand that having to take a different route home, if you're, say, working the midnight shift and you're heading home right now, I get it, but it is rather it is so much better to just take that little detour, that few extra minutes, versus getting your car stuck or potentially even worse outcomes here. As again, we take a look here at the rainfall estimate over the past few hours here, upwards of 2 to 3 inches of rain have fallen in the Fargo area here, and even higher amounts further off to the southwest, where you saw those more intense thunderstorms as well, upwards of 3+ inches of rain closer to Horace, down towards the Davenport area as well. And we know that these storms have been deadly as well. Again, closer to the Enderlin area, a tornado has already caused at least 2 confirmed fatalities right now. And it looks like we are already seeing additional reports of damage across the region as well, in addition to power outages and the like. And zooming out big picture here, you can see this large swath of heavy rain from north of the Bismarck area, as I'll grab my pointer here, from north of the Bismarck area through portions between the James River Valley and the Devil's Lake Basin into east central portions of North Dakota, Cass County and Barnes County especially getting hit hard, and then further off to the northeast as well into portions of Minnesota Lakes Country, off to the northwest of the Detroit Lakes area, and then into Bemidji as well. As we take a look here at current winds across the viewing area, and the problem is that 70-mile-an-hour gust you're seeing in Valley City, that is not current. The Valley City Airport, my mouse is not wanting to cooperate, but the Valley City Airport has been down since about 12:30 in terms of those observations. So a lot of sensors are down across the region, so that's another thing that's making it a bit challenging to gauge exactly what's happening at the surface here with these strong straight line winds. Fortunately for the Fargo Metro, the worst of it is passing just off to your north here. So north of Arthur, Georgetown, towards the Hallstatt area, and also towards Ada and moving towards Fertile as well. That's the corridor where we're looking out for those for the strongest winds now moving into portions of Minnesota here. So looking at the ENDON network of sensors, we're seeing still a 61-mile-an-hour gust currently in Hillsboro, and also at the Galesburg station, a 48-mile-an-hour gust now at the Ada, Minnesota ENDON station here. And as we take a cue at some of the winds that radar is estimating, still seeing the potential for those winds at times to be upwards of 80, 90, and perhaps 100 miles an hour. If I'm not mistaken, the warning here has been changed over to 80-mile-an-hour winds, and Jesse has some information on that.
Yeah, so I'm going to take a zoom out real quick and give you a loop of the last several hours. Actually, we'll freeze things here because there is a new warning. There's the loop. All right, coming through. As far as what started off earlier, there were the individual cells, and then those line of thunderstorms caught up to them, and that is what's been causing on the backside of that line the really intense wind gusts. So take a look as we get a little closer to home here. We've got Mayville still underneath that severe thunderstorm warning for another about 40 minutes or so. That does include portions of northern Cass. It does include the Hunter area. It includes Steele as well as most of Trail County. It has now been extended into Minnesota. We were just showing you the velocity data, the nose of that strong wind starting to push it across the Red River and moving into Minnesota. So the new severe thunderstorm warning now has in effect for portions of Norman, Pennington, Polk, and even into Red Lake County here, the far southwestern side of it. This is again for those strong winds starting to nose in past the Crookston area. Again, still not including the Grand Forks area. Here's a look closer to that first initial warning across Trail County. You can see those strong yellows, those bright yellows. That is where those strong wind speeds are possible, anywhere from again 90 to 100 miles an hour within this one. As we get closer to the new severe warned storm, this is now for 80-mile-an-hour wind gusts. So potentially going into the Crookston area again, just the nose of that starting to progress further up to the north and to the east. So starting to make its way into Pennington, portions of southern Polk County, again, not including East Grand Forks, but it does include the Crookston area. We're seeing some of those wind gusts approaching the Minnesota 9 area. So you can see approaching the Fertile area. This is where the damaging wind line is going to be heading into your area in the Fertile area, also getting closer to Ada, Minnesota, already passing through Climax as well as in Shelley, down through right along the I-29 corridor. But again, this is nosing into Minnesota now, so portions around Mentor, Mahnomen, going to notice those winds upticking, especially along and north of highway or of 200 at the moment. Wanted to keep an eye on those storms again down across portions of central Minnesota. They are now progressing into the Cross Lake, Whitefish chain. Those are severe warned for some 60-mile-an-hour winds, but again, closer to Monaga, starting to see a non-severe warned storm at the moment. If we can get a little bit closer to it, I'll get away from that severe thunderstorm warning. Here just north of Monaga around Green Valley, this is a little intensification of a cell. Again, does not have a severe warning on it, but certainly very loud thunder and lightning show going on, heading towards closer to the Park Rapids area. So this one intensifying a little bit as it gets closer into the Hubbard area. So this will continue to progress to the north and to the east. Still monitoring stuff around Nisswa. If you've got Brainerd Lakes area, that's where still monitoring some intense thunderstorms. But again, closer to our neck of the woods, we're still monitoring the potential for 70-mile-an-hour gusts in portions of northwestern Cass County. And that is going to continue to push through Castleton, approaching Harwood. This might be getting closer to West Fargo, the nose of those stronger winds. Again, closer to Hendrum around Halstead. That's where we're seeing those potential for the 60 to 80-mile-an-hour winds. And some places a little closer to where these strong yellows are could see even stronger wind gusts than that. Still strong gusts across Buxton down through the I-29 corridor around Mayville. Still have the severe thunderstorm warning there. Around the Fargo-Moorhead area, finally rain free, but we still do have the flash flood warning as the water slowly receding in the urban areas. That's where we're dealing with some of the localized flooding. So that's why that continues, because it's just going to take some time for the water to make its way down into the red. Off to the west, you can see around Castleton, off to the west, that is where we still have that severe thunderstorm warning for the wind speeds off to the west. Also up to the north, another place with a flash flood warning that continues. The good news is around Ada, Borup, starting to see things dry out a little bit. Halstead over up through the Mayville area, though, some steadier rain showers. That is all slowly moving up to the north and to the east. Fertile still underneath the flash flood warning for another 45 minutes or so. And thankfully, again, getting a little bit of a break from these thunder showers pushing on through. Again, it doesn't look like there's a lot going on in terms of severe thunderstorm warnings, but these areas you see highlighted in yellow are there for the strong wind gusts that are pushing all of these thunderstorms across parts of north central Minnesota. And you can see those winds also kind of initiating another little round across portions of Lakes Country. So let's get a little bit closer to these ones. Again, non-severe warned at the moment. Detroit Lakes, just a little shower pushing through. Perham up through Park Rapids, though, a little bit more thunder shower action there. Again, not severe warm, but still, you did dry out for a little bit, and now this little push of wind is pulsing up a few more thunder showers ahead of the most intense winds. Robert, any more reports coming in from any of these storms?
So earlier this evening, we do have some additional photos coming in of the tornadoes that were going on early this evening as the storms were initially more discreet here. And so they were able to have those spin ups a bit across eastern parts of the state. This was from the southwest of Jamestown area. Thank you so much to Ryan for this photo. You can see a nice large stovepipe to cone tornado here ongoing southwest of the Jamestown area. Speaking of tornado warnings, none in our region, fortunately, but if you have cabins or know anyone that does have cabins out towards the Hibbing, Minnesota area as our radar loads up here, that's where we do have tornado warnings continuing well outside of our viewing area. This is for parts of Itasca and St. Louis counties. Radar indicated tornado warning continuing until 2:15 this morning, so just about to expire in the Hibbing area here. As we take a look at the winds inside that storm, we don't have good data from the Duluth office, so really struggling to be on the edge of our radar sites there. But again, radar indicated rotation near the Hibbing area, and you can see that warning has just been allowed to expire on time. So again, the tornadic risk really has greatly diminished with these storms. It is now just the lingering straight line wind threat. We do have now reports of significant damage in the Bemidji area, which is in line with the earlier on report of 106-mile-an-hour gust in the Bemidji area. About, goodness, what was that? About 12:40 or so this morning. That's when we lost connection to a couple of live streams that we were watching and keeping an eye on in the Bemidji area. There was a big flash of lightning, and then everything went down. That is in line with when we saw those winds move through the Bemidji area. Again, 106-mile-an-hour gust. Hope, North Dakota had a peak gust of 111 miles an hour at a personal weather station just outside of town. Linton, North Dakota, a 101-mile-an-hour gust, also in the 100 club. Certainly a club I don't think any of us want our communities to be in, because these have been destructive thunderstorms, widespread power outages, damage, tree damages, and not to mention the tornadoes and also the flooding that we're dealing with across different portions of the region, including the Fargo metro. Woodworth, North Dakota, 94-mile-an-hour gust. Elgin, North Dakota, also a 94-mile-an-hour gust. And Wing, North Dakota, a 92-mile-an-hour gust. And there have been scores more 60, 70, and 80-mile-an-hour gusts, which would normally make a list like this. But tonight, we really have not been able to, because the gusts have just been really excessive across the region, and we're continuing to see that concern on the backside of these thunderstorms on that rear inflow jet for those thunderstorm winds upwards of 80 or so miles an hour to continue here. So severe thunderstorm warning continuing here for portions of, as I take off the cue here for the flash flood warnings, which we can certainly talk about more in a moment. But as we take a look here, severe thunderstorm warning for portions of Cass, Norman, Steele, and Trail counties continues until 2:45 a.m. this morning, including the Hillsborough and Mayville area here, with another severe thunderstorm warning continuing till 3 a.m. for portions of Norman, Pennington, Polk, and Red Lake counties in Minnesota, including Crookston, Foston, and Red Lake Falls. Again, that going until 3 a.m. for the potential here of winds upwards of 80 miles per hour, perhaps some small hail, but that's not going to be much of a concern compared to those 80-mile-an-hour winds, which we can see approaching the fertile area right now on our velocity product, the winds within this thunderstorm here. And as we take a look here at the estimates that the radar is coming up with, again, we're getting a little further away from the radar site here, so the winds that you're seeing on screen here is an estimate of the winds that are occurring roughly about 4,000 feet above the surface. So that's where you're seeing those even higher winds, but some of that upwards of, again, 80 miles an hour potentially filtering down to the surface for areas like Ada and over to Fertile as well. In the Mayville area and off to the west, you are seeing some relief. Cooperstown down to Greenfield, over to Hope, you're seeing those winds starting to die down, and that correlates with what we are seeing on the North Dakota Agricultural Weather Network station information that we are seeing out in northwestern portions of Cass County. We still are seeing those winds upwards of 52 miles an hour at Ayer and the Galesburg area. We do have a 58-mile-an-hour gust in Hillsborough right now. Curiously enough, heading into Minnesota, The Ada station's only reporting 34 right now for a gust, Fertile 43, and Eldred is reporting 40 currently. So not necessarily seeing confirmation at this very moment that those intense winds are reaching the ground in portions of Minnesota, but these aren't going to be a consistent howling wind like you would expect in a hurricane, even though you might hear the term inland hurricane get thrown around with a thing like this. It's a very different weather pattern, of course, but the synoptics aside and the semantics aside, these are not consistent winds upwards of 80 to 90 and 100 miles an hour constantly. These are peaks and troughs of these winds picking up and then kind of diminishing, just like you would expect out of wind gusts here. But again, certainly looking out for the potential here for those gusts up to around 80 miles an hour. That seems to be the case still as we're looking at radar. Again, continuing into portions of northwestern Minnesota here around the Ada area, and then eventually continuing further off to the northwest as well.
All right, thank you, Robert. Taking a look again, a broader picture here of those storms as they initiated and starting progressing into Minnesota, still dealing very much so with those intense winds on the backside. So here's the current look at the warnings that are ongoing. Notice these two boxes don't have really much in terms of precipitation falling from it. So we can still get those strong wind gusts even though you don't have the thunderstorms with them. Still have some rain ongoing around Crookston, almost over through Red Lake, but at the moment, most of those are, again, these are all just purely for wind. I want to step off real quick. Just got an update from the National Weather Service. There have been reports of extensive tree damage from Steele County east into Trail County. Feel free to send us some of those reports if you're seeing them, of course, only after it is safe to do so. So I've zoomed into this particular severe thunderstorm warning. It does include Fingal and Litchfield, Still, Valley City over through Tower City into the Castleton area. So portions of northern and western parts of Cass County, as well as Barnes County. This continues for 70-mile-an-hour wind gusts pushing through, even though there is not an active thunderstorm going on at this point. You can see across portions of Norman, Steele, and Trade County, northern portions of Cass County. This is another severe thunderstorm warning that will continue for another 25 minutes. This is for 100-mile-an-hour damaging wind gusts. So again, within this, on the backside of these storms, the winds have been persistently gusting off and on between 80 and 100 miles an hour. So damaging wind still continues to be a threat tonight. And then this next box up here pushing into Minnesota, the nose is starting to move into Minnesota, and that's the severe thunderstorm warning. That does include Norman, Pennington, as well as in Polk and Red Lake County. That will continue until 3 o'clock in the morning. Again, this is a long duration event. We've been with you all night. Thanks for sticking with us. Thanks for being okay with us cutting into programming, because this is, again, a very damaging situation as far as the wind speeds are concerned. We do the same for your place as well. So that's what we're doing. We're sticking around because these damaging winds are progressing slowly. Mostly it's hitting almost every place in our viewing area tonight. This particular area in Minnesota, you can see Red Lake Falls down through Fertile, Crookston, still under the potential for 80-mile-an-hour wind gusts off and on potentially as that nose of the low-level jet starts to push on through. So we'll switch you back over to our velocity, show you the wind within this particular pulse of strong winds that are pushing into Minnesota. This area in yellow making its way into Fertile. You can see it crossing over 32 at the moment. Foston, you'll eventually see those winds starting to pick up in your area right on the edge of Ada. Borup, you'll probably be seeing that too. That line extends down through Georgetown across northern portions of Cass County. That does most likely going to be including the West Fargo area. Probably within the next half hour to an hour, we'll start to see that included in the FM area as long as these winds continue to gust. And it's not like they've been doing a whole lot of diminishment off to the west. So we've been watching that. Still 80-mile-an-hour gusts still possible within this severe warned thunderstorm, if we can call it that. There are still active thunderstorms just to the south of the Foston area. You can see riding along 200 around Monoman, Nadawash, thunderstorms here. These are not severe warned, but the nose of the wind just up to the north and to the west as we switch over to our velocity area again, impacting Fertile, stretching down along Minnesota 9 from Crookston down to the south. Still looking at some kind of intense storms, but not, again, severe warm from Park Rapids down through Monaga, Spruce Grove over through Sabika. But that is, again, not severe thunderstorm warned. Those are out near the Brainerd Lakes area, over through the Whitefish chain near Cross Lake, along 64 over through Aiken, which earlier in the week they were dealing with tornado warnings out there. Again, back to our velocity, showing you some of those strong wind gusts across portions of Cass County. Harwood seeing those potential for 70-mile-an-hour wind gusts. That is kind of the heart and the nose of that jet, starting to push into Minnesota at the moment. So again, about almost 2:30 in the morning here. We're going to continue to stay on because of the threat for these damaging winds as these the nose of the strongest winds start to push through into the Beltrami area. Shelley starting to see those that strongest wind and that strongest nose of the jet starting to weaken and at least push out of your area, but we're still going to be monitoring those pulse ups of those strong winds on the backside of this slowly rotating low pressure that's kind of trying to work its way out of here. Robert?
So we have a new photo that we have just gotten permission from a viewer to show here. We can go ahead and show that. That is a 100-foot tall tree that you're seeing. Remind me again, Ben, what location this is in? This is in the Bemidji area, where we are getting reports of extensive damage from the emergency managers of Beltrami County. So this was a 100-foot tall tree that slammed down onto the viewer's truck here. Fortunately, he is reporting that everyone is okay, but based on the inklings of information that we are starting to get out of the Bemidji area, it looks like scenes like this are likely across the entirety of the Bemidji area here. I just checked with the power outages. Beltrami County is reporting 22,457 customers out of 3,800 without power in Beltrami County. That is one of the highest we are seeing in Minnesota. We are also seeing 2,400 people without power in Monoman County and 1,130 without power in Norman County. In North Dakota here, taking a look at the latest reports for those power outages here. Further off to the southwest, Barnes County, you remain with about 3,100 people out of 3,400 without power. Also a high percentage of customers without power in Stutzman County, over 9,200, and high percentages in Griggs and also Trail County, where you have several thousand people without power. Fortunately, in the Cass County area, only about 7,500 people without power, which is a bigger number, yes, but you also have 105,000 customers in Cass County, so those percentages are at least a little bit lower in the Cass County area here. But again, we do have 2 severe thunderstorm warnings, which, when you look at reflectivity alone, look very odd indeed here, because there's just nothing going on. But when we look over to our velocity product, that's where you're seeing these indications of those strong straight line winds moving into the region, upwards of 70 to 80 miles an hour here, possible out of these storms. As we take a look at the latest, I'm just taking a look here at the so the southern of these 2 warnings has been allowed to be canceled here. So from Valley City, Tower City over to Castleton, points to the south, that severe thunderstorm warning is now off the books. Further to the north here, let me switch back over so you can see those warnings that I'm talking about. So again here, the southern of the 2 that you're looking at here, I'll cross that out because, again, that is no longer active. So from Litchville up to Valley City, over to Tower City, Castleton, down towards the Enderlin area, the severe thunderstorm warning for the potential of those damaging straight line winds behind these storms, that has allowed to be canceled here just a few minutes early. Further off to the north here, though, we're still looking out for the potential of 70 to perhaps 80-mile-an-hour winds here. Further to the north areas, including Mayville over to Page, down towards the Arthur area. And that's where when we're looking at the velocity product, we're seeing some indications of some gustier winds. Again, looking over to the Endon network in northwestern portions of Cass County, closer to the Galesburg, and also over towards the Air area. We are seeing those winds only in the 30 to 40 mile an hour range at this point, but still a 54 mile an hour gust reported at Hillsboro, and now across the state line into Minnesota, closer to the Ada and Fertile area, we are seeing those winds picking up a bit more. 63 miles an hour currently at the Ada Endon station, and 52 miles an hour at the Fertile Endon station. So again, indications also on radar for the potential of higher wind gusts upwards of 80, 90 miles an hour. And let me just confirm, the warning is calling for the potential of winds up to 70 miles an hour. And let me pull that warning up here. So again, this is for areas in, let me take off this flash flood warning here, and we'll get a better view of this severe thunderstorm warning. So again, this is for portions of Norman, Pennington, Polk, and Red Lake counties until 3 a.m. So for about another half hour or so. If there is any good news, again, they're now only calling out for the potential of winds up to 70 miles an hour. So we are very slowly seeing this jet on the backside of these storms show perhaps some cracks in the facade, so to speak. But when we're looking at radar around the fertile area, in particular on the velocity products, we are still seeing those indications here of some very intense winds. That's where you're seeing almost those gold shades. It's not even red anymore. That's where you're seeing the best chance between Ada and fertile for those winds to be on the stronger side. Again, upwards of 70, perhaps 80 miles per hour. That is a little higher than what the end-on stations there are currently showing, but keep in mind, those are just points, and these winds are across a larger area, and the winds aren't going to be uniform across that larger area. So unless those stations get hit with those peak wind gusts, we won't necessarily have a perfect idea of just how high those winds are being observed. And another thing, a lot of airport stations and other weather stations across the region have gone offline as we have had these winds roll through, and we are losing a lot of stations. I mentioned earlier, Valley City and Jamestown, those airport weather stations are offline. We're seeing a similar story closer to portions of Minnesota Lakes Country, although the Bemidji Airport Station, at last check here, is still online here as of 2:15 this morning. So Jesse has an update.
Yeah, so we were just hearing from the emergency county manager in Beltrami County. He's saying, trying to get caught up. They have many roofs off buildings everywhere around Bemidji, vehicles flipped, windows blown in at the regional medical center. Sounds like a lot of trees are down and around that area. Several gas leaks in town as well. So if you know friends or family in the Bemidji area, that is that we were tracking these tornado warned storm there, again, just outside of the WDAY viewing area, but still a lot of reports of damage coming in from that neck of the woods. If we can switch back over to Max 2 here, we'll kind of track that last little thunder shower pushing through. Has come to an end for the most part across North Dakota as far as the thunderstorm activity goes. Here's a look at the loop of the last 6 hours. We've been tracking these storms for quite some time. And again, the threat for the wind is starting to wane a little bit in terms of the reports coming in as far as the latest wind gust reports through some of those areas. So again, portions of southern Cass County are looking at that no longer having that warning around that area. So here's a look as we get a little bit closer. Sorry, my clicker decided to go out of batteries there. A little bit closer to where those severe thunderstorm warnings continue. Again, radar indicated for the wind gusts. So that continues for Norman, Steele, portions of Trail County. Again, the lack of thunderstorms isn't something you should be concerned about. It's those 100-mile-an-hour wind gusts that are still there. But again, the latest reports from the North Dakota Ag Network sites and from some of the airport stations are showing lower wind gusts that are actually making their way down to the ground. Still a continuation of the severe thunderstorm warning in portions of Norman, Pennington, Polk, and Red Lake County. This area is shaded here. Does include Beltrami, Crookston, over through Fosston. That is for some wind gusts topping 80 miles an hour. That was a little earlier. That has been downgraded to 70-mile-an-hour gusts. So again, some signs that we're starting to see a little weakening. Still intense, damaging winds, though, pushing through Fertile, pushing into the Monoman area relatively soon, south of Highway 2 at this point in time, approaching Highway 59 north of Monoman. That line does extend down, but again, not as intense gusts coming into portions of northwestern parts of Cass County. All of this still wrapping around this kind of spin in the atmosphere. That is what's pushing some of those strong wind gusts there. So here's the updated, again, 70-mile-an-hour gusts possible with this in this area here. Pennington, Polk, Red Lake, and Norman County, again, continues to have that potential for some 70-mile-an-hour gusts. Wanted to kind of get a little bit closer, again, showing you those intense wind gusts as our velocity mode, where those areas of bright yellow are. That's the nose. That's the strongest line of winds approaching 59. Again, heading towards 200 as well. Elsewhere, we do not have a active severe thunderstorm warning ongoing at this time in portions of Lakes Country, but still downpours, a lot of lightning, maybe potential for some small hail and some internal wind gusts within these thunderstorms around Monaga, over through Walker, down through Powers, Park Rapids, also seeing some of those thunder downpours as well. But the heart of the thunderstorms that rolled through, those continue to push past the Brainerd Lakes area through Shamrock up towards the Hibbing area. A lot of lightning. That is where the severe thunderstorm warnings are associated with the thunderstorms. For us, again, just turning to more of a wind risk tonight as the backside of this kind of fueling, the low-level jet that's fueling these storms is pushing through our region at the moment. So again, continuing to look at those intense golds you see on the storm tracker velocity. You can see that nose just moving closer to Foston, should be closer to Woodside around the Winger area, Bijou. Also going to be looking at that potential for some intense wind gusts, just as this is the leading edge. Once we start to see those wind gusts, reported wind gusts, and the National Weather Service confirming that those wind gusts are dropping closer to that 70 mile an hour and below range, we'll get off of the air finally. But we're not going to do that just yet, because still the nose of those strongest winds are still pushing through parts of Minnesota. We do expect a lot of those severe thunderstorm warnings to start to wane, especially as we get closer to about 3:30 in the morning. I know a lot of you folks are like wondering when this is going to be done. Most likely by the time if you're going to be getting out the door tomorrow around 7, you shouldn't have any of these storms or any of these thunderstorms or strong winds to worry about anymore. I'm going to zoom out real quickly though, show you again the entire backside of this system starting to push through North Dakota, the strongest winds moving into Minnesota at this point in time. But this is going to, all of this rain that we've seen, it's going to only intensify the amount of moisture in the air for tomorrow. So as we get into the day tomorrow, it's going to be very warm, sticky. There are heat advisories in effect through portions of southeastern sections of the region. It is going to be very warm and sticky, all courtesy of this rain that's been pushing on through. And again, we're going to be doing a lot of wind damage assessments out there tomorrow. Most likely, we're going to see a lot of damage from these thunderstorms that have gone through. And it is going to be a very hot and humid day to be going out there and cleaning up all of that damage. So keep that in the back of your mind. If you're going to be doing some cleaning tomorrow, it's going to be hot and humid. We're talking temperatures mostly in the 90s, feeling like the mid 90s, upper 90s, because it's going to be very warm and humid. Any other reports coming in, Robert?
So we are seeing a couple of reports online from social media of some damage again around the Bemidji area, but the lack of reports is also another sign of just the extent of the damage. Communication, I'm sure, is difficult around the Bemidji area, on top of the fact that it is still in the middle of the night here, so a lot of people are just trying to start to assess what has happened. Again, we did have that one photo come in of a 100-foot tall tree crashing down on a semi-truck. A lot of tree damage is being reported. The Beltrami County emergency managers are talking about buildings having the roofs ripped off, vehicles flipped, windows blown out at the regional medical center, and thousands of trees being down. 25 gas leaks around the town itself, and apartment buildings have had their roofs turned off. So extensive damage around the Bemidji area with 100-mile-an-hour winds reported. That is unfortunately to be expected when you have tornadic-like, in terms of the intensity, winds occur across a populated area. It unfortunately is a situation where you should be treating it. Okay. Okay, we have some new video that we just got permission to use. We're going to show this. This was taken about an hour ago in the Bemidji area here, so you can see that there is extensive damage, parts of buildings blown around here. You can see that a lot of spots are in the dark here, only a few areas of light, and a lot of that's just from flashlights, so you can see some structural damage. Okay, this is by the Northland Apartments in the Bemidji area here. Okay, no power, which is to be expected, of course, but fortunately no reports of injuries as well in the Bemidji area. So you can see just the extensive damage both to trees and also to buildings that have occurred in the Bemidji area. And that was as the storm was just clearing out. You can see the rain still going, the lightning still flashing, as it was a rather chaotic scene about an hour ago in the Bemidji area, with the extensive damage that has occurred in the city of Bemidji and the surrounding areas as well. So thank you so much to our viewers for these videos, to Joshua here for this video here. It just certainly goes to show the story of these storms, and that's why we are still on the air, because we have the potential for those winds, especially across now Minnesota Lakes Country, south of the Grand Forks area, closer to Fertile and Ada. That's why we are still on the air here at 2:38 in the morning. Because as long as there's the potential for those winds upwards of 80 or so miles an hour, there is that threat for damage and excessive damage perhaps as well. So that is why we are still on the air here. And again, it's around the Fertile area, points just off to the east now as well, approaching Foston, north of Monoman, where we're still seeing radar indications of winds in excess of 90 miles an hour being possible. Again, a severe thunderstorm warning continues here until 3 a.m. this morning here for portions of, let me pull it up so you can see. And I'll take off the flash flood warning yet again here. It defaults back to showing all of those. Okay, here we go. So until 3 a.m. for Norman, Pennington, Polk, and Red Lake. Again, including Crookston, the Foston area, Red Lake Falls, down towards Fertile, and also just areas north of Monoman along US 59 as well. US 2 between the Grand Forks area, all the way closer to Foston and Bagley. That's where we are concerned about the potential for those winds, again, in excess of 70 to perhaps 80 miles an hour. The severe thunderstorm warning further off to the west that you see for areas like Mayville, over to Hope Arthur, and just off to the east of the Cooperstown area. That is set to expire in 5 minutes here. And looking at reports from the NDAW networks, we still are seeing some gusty winds, certainly upwards of 50, perhaps 60 miles an hour, but those severe gusts are slowly dwindling in North Dakota.
All right, so for the latest on those severe thunderstorm warnings, since this one is going to expire in about 5 minutes or so, and those latest reports no longer have the 100-mile-an-hour gust potential with it, and that warning is going to expire, this one down to a 70-mile-an-hour gust potential, the threat is really starting to wane for the intense winds with this entire system pushing through. I know a lot of folks, some of you reaching out to me on Facebook saying, hey, are we done? Are we good with this rain, with this strong winds down across the Lakes Country area? This nose of the jet really going to be missing you folks across southern portion of Lakes Country. I also think that threat is really starting to wane as it continues to progress eastward into Minnesota. Also, that rain going to kind of help relax some of that as well. So for that reason, we're going to sign off of the air for all of us here at WDAY. We've got Charles Picard, Robert Pointer, Robert Daly, and myself, Jesse Ritka. Thanks for sticking with us this evening. We'll continue to monitor things. We're not going anywhere. We're handing things off. But again, we're going to sign off for now because, again, that threat for the intense damaging winds that were in that 80 to 100-mile-an-hour range has come to an end, at least for now. If we see things pulse up again, we'll, of course, cut back into programming.